Welcome back to Shoot Me Straight with Eddie and Dave. We got an awesome guest today, Greg Lapin, the owner of Fieldcraft Survival.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, brand new owner of Fieldcraft Survival. And, I mean, obviously you have an extensive law enforcement background, which we'll get into. Really stoked that you came down here. You flew in last night. Yeah. We got up this morning, got a decent little workout in, got the body moving.
That's right.
Then,
got a little sweat on.
Yeah, ready to start the day. But you and I met, I think, for the first time. Was that at Tucker's event?
Yeah, it was at the Outpouch launch party at Tucker. Well, Dave Ramsey's for Tucker Carlson. Yeah. And then we ran each other at the airport the next day, and then it was like bromance immediately.
Yep, that's it. I was like, hey, let's get linked up. And then, I think at SHOT Show, we saw each other at the SHOT, but that's like a zoo, obviously. It's madness. 5-minute conversations, like, gotta go, and then running. But, yeah, man, I wanted to get you out here and just talk about everything that you're doing with Fieldcraft. I know you're revamping it, and so I think that's awesome, especially with the direction that you were telling me over the phone how you're going to go. And, yeah, I definitely want the listeners to hear all that, but then also get your background as well.
No, I appreciate it, man. I'm super stoked to be here. This is awesome. It's a lot different than Utah.
Yeah.
Right now, I left Utah. I've literally got a down jacket in my rental car right now because, I left Utah all bundled up and got here. I'm like, oh, wow. We were at the beach this morning running with Lily.
And this actually, for here, it's like cold.
Yeah, it's cold here,
but, yeah, I figured it'd be a good change of pace.
Oh, the workout was awesome. Like, just shorts on, no shirt, no shoes, lifting in the garage. It was like, this is all I'm loving it.
Spartan style.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So we'll start off, like, just your background, where you grew up, and just how you got into law enforcement.
Yeah, man. It's it's one of those, I think, stories that I think we kind of all share. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in the Northeast, up in New Jersey, northern New Jersey.
What part?
So, like, Bergen County area.
Okay, I was born in Patterson.
Oh, right there. So, dude, I lived all over Paramus, Hohokus, Teaneck. Right, Patterson's right there, So I grew up all over New Jersey.
Yeah, I was born St. Joe Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I was born in New York City in Mount Sinai, and then my parents moved across the river to the suburbs. My dad worked in the city, so I grew up that way. My dad grew up dirt poor, but worked his ass off, made a good living, got into banking in the city, and I never, I was fortunate, never really needed or wanted anything. Grew up like a normal kid. Got one brother, and grew up playing ice hockey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, grew up playing ice hockey from the time I was a little kid. Played ice hockey, rode BMX and dirt bikes and all that stuff, and wanted to be a commando. That's what I wanted to do. Every little, it's like Vietnam kind of was just ended kind of, and I was born in '78.
Okay, 79.
So, Vietnam kind of just not too long ago, that was the last main. And then we started moving in when I could start remembering warfare was, Somalia, Desert Storm, all that stuff, and you could see the guys that looked different. You didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know a SEAL from a Green Beret, from a Force Recon Marine, but I knew the guys that had the paint on their face.
Yeah.
And the different pockets. Just different gear. I'm like, those are the guys, right?
That looks cool.
That looks cooler, right?
Yeah.
And Vietnam, it was like tiger stripes and blue jeans.
Which is the most badass.
That's the most badass. I don't know how practical it was, but it was super badass.
There definitely was. I remember listening to somebody's podcast, whatever, but why they wore jeans.
I know there was reasoning for it,
but the number one reason
looks cool.
It looks cool.
That's it. What is it? The three rules of being a special operator, right? Is always look cool, always know where you are, and if you don't know where you are, look cool.
Yes.
Right?
If you mess up, at least you look cool.
At least you look cool, yeah. So I wanted to be a commando. My birthdays and Christmases were filled with going to the surplus store and picking out the stuff that was not conventional. So, no greens, no helmets. I don't think I ever owned an old steel helmet or Kevlar helmet as a kid. Mm-hmm. The cool guys didn't wear helmets, man.
Boonie
they wore boonie covers, right? Or bandanas back in the day, right? That was super cool.
Tier 1
that was tier 1 stuff, man. Can't talk about it. But, Yeah, so that's what I grew up wanting to do, and I tried to go into the military right after high school. I went to a recruiter. I actually went to a Navy recruiter because at the time, in high school specifically, the Navy had the best recruiting out there, period. And then the documentary they released with Charlie Sheen and Michael Bain.
Yes,
the very accurate depiction of life in the teams.
Yeah, that was the ultimate recruitment movie for NSW.
For sure, absolutely.
Like Top Gun for the fighter pilots.
That's right. Well, it's funny is I've got a cousin who went and saw Top Gun in the theater when it released. He goes, "That's cool. I'm going to do that." And he went and joined the Navy. And he got to a F-14 fighter squadron called the Top Hatters. He was a RIO, so he was a radar intercept officer, and that's what he did. And he went and did it. I was like, that's cool. So I saw Navy SEALs. I'm going to go do that.
Heck yeah.
So I went and saw a Navy recruiter. My parents, who are not in the military, were like, they didn't want me to do that. And, my dad, because he grew up super poor, what he knew of to be successful, because he got lucky, is you want to be successful, you got to go to college. You got to get a college degree.
Yep. Yeah. That's my parents as well.
Yeah.
It's that generation.
And that was that generation. And, I had a good relationship with my folks, so not that I was really wanted to buck them that bad, but I wanted to make them happy as well. And I said, all right, I'll try college out. I'll try it out, but I want to go in the military. So we'll take you to a recruiter. So I went and saw an officer recruiter for the Navy, and he was brand new on recruiting duty and filled out all the paperwork and did all the interviews to DEP in, right, after college. That's a delayed entry program. Right?
Yeah.
And did that. Went to college, found a Buds Motivator program at the time. So I linked up with them doing, the PFT and other stuff 1 weekend a month.
What college were you at?
So I was at Rutgers University, and the Motivator program, we were using the Merchant Marine Academy out of Long Island, if you knew that area.
I know the area a little bit, but not as well as I should. But
yeah. So they basically, you go there 1 weekend a month and you spend the weekend there, and they've got a bunch of either retired team guys or some reserves team guys, a couple young guys that just got out of Budge or SQT or whatever would come and help out, and you do the PFT, and then you go do some sort of exercise. And,
go to the pool or do whatever.
Exactly, yeah. And they try to get you ready to go in and go to Buds. And my time came to DEP in, and I went to MEPS, and my paperwork was flagged because the recruiter that I saw years ago had put down that I have a food allergy, which I do. I have an allergy to tree nuts. Those nuts will always get you, man.
Tree nuts.
Yeah. Almonds, pecans, walnuts, shit like that, right?
That sucks.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But it never affected my life, and this was before the war. But it's a disqualifier known as a allergy to common foods. It's a disqualifier. So I'm like, well, what does this mean? What happens? And they're like, no worries. We'll apply for a waiver. So I applied for a waiver. Waiver goes down to BUMED, Bureau of Medicine, and comes back, big red stamp, PDQ'd, waiver denied. I'll never forget seeing that. I'm like, well, what's that mean? It means permanently disqualified. They denied your waiver, permanently disqualified. Dude, I'm like, so where do I go from here? Like, nowhere. Like, that's it, dude. You're done. I'm like, no fucking way, right? So, long story short, I went down a path, tried to get in with a different branch. I went to MEPS under a different branch with different paperwork, didn't say anything about the old shit. It caught up to me, as you would imagine it would.
How far did you get before it caught up again?
Dude, I went all the way through MEPS again. I got to the job counselor, the job classifier at the end of MEPS with the Army. And then someone came in the office and was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
So I was almost like out the door.
That is so ridiculous that, I mean, I get why, they look for certain disqualifiers like, hey, you could be a problem, down the road or whatever.
I get it. If you're like
deployment.
Epileptic.
Yeah. But it's like, dude, allergy to, to nuts, like there's ways around that. I mean, at the end of the day. But to me, it's crazy because back then I remember how stringent it was, right? Like I remember when I joined, they were like going through all my stuff. And I'll even say my son just joined the Marines last year. And when I went with him, they were definitely stringent still. Like they were like, oh, you took this medication. It was when my son got his tooth pulled. And this was like 6 years prior. And they're like, well, might be an issue. And you're like, I'm like, what? But then I'm thinking from when I left the Navy, I'm like, they were letting people in that I want to be a woman. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, we'll give you.
Yeah, no problem. Come on.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, dude, it's such a double standard.
Yeah.
And it also fluctuates, I think, with if there's a war going on
For sure.
or not. Because if there's a war going on, all of a sudden it's like, we don't care what allergies you have. Come
That's
on.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this was 97 to 2000.
Yeah, that's when I joined around that time.
Yeah, so no war going on. They could be real picky. No one expected what was going to happen on September 11th, 2001. You know, so there was no real need.
Yeah.
But, I mean, hell, here I am, 46 years old. I didn't die from tree nuts yet.
Yeah.
And I ended up contracting. Yeah, I somehow made it. And I ended up contracting overseas for 8 years, you know, and living actually embedded for almost 4 of those years in an Arab culture, eating at, you know, Eid dinners and stuff like that with them, you know, sitting around.
Which there's a lot more dangerous stuff in that food than nuts.
Bro, it's going to, I'll tell you what, man. You have some interesting bathroom trips after you sit around a goat on a tray and everyone's eating, you know.
Bare hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, everyone's eating. So, yeah, it's wild. So, yeah, so I ended up going into law enforcement. And, man, you know, you can always look back, and hindsight's always 20/20, but I had an amazing career. Mm-hmm. I got a ton of amazing experience. I was real fortunate that I just kind of like all this bad shit kind of happened, and I was right there on the forefront of it, you know? So before I got into law enforcement, when I was still trying to get into the military, September 11th happened. Towers came down.
Were you up in Jersey or New York?
I was living in Edison, New Jersey. Edison? Yeah, I was living in Edison, New Jersey. And
what was that like for you that day?
Dude, so it was wild. So this is how long ago it is. I had a radio alarm clock, you know, with the little red letters on it, right? The red numbers on it. And I woke up to the news. Alarm goes off. A small private plane just crashed into one of the towers. Can't believe this. I'm like, that's weird. Like, pretty big building to accidentally hit, you know? And I get up, groggy-eyed, I turn on the TV, and I'm standing there, and I think I was trying to call someone, and I'm watching the TV, and then you see it enter the TV, and everything just went, like, everything sunk, dude. I'm like, oh, shit, you know? And not that I was in law enforcement or in the military or any of that, but I was obviously, like, associated with a lot of these guys trying to get in.
Yeah.
And so right away, I started making a call, and one of my buddies in college, he was a mentor of mine. I don't know, he was maybe 8 to 10 years older than me, and he had just gotten out of active duty with force reconnaissance, and he was in one of my classes at Rutgers. And we made eye contact one day because of our back. Remember the old issued Eagle Industries 3-day assault packs?
Yeah.
Right, that everybody had. Like, it was like one of the only first, it was before Black Hawk was a company and everything, Eagle Industries. And we both had the same Eagle Industries backpack. And he looked at me and I looked at him. We started chatting and he was like, all right, I'm going to help you and we're going to get you ready. So we had become really good friends over the couple of years. I was PTing him and we're swimming with him and running with him and rucking with him every day. And he was taking me to the range and teaching me how to like pack out a ruck and how to land nav and do all this stuff, right? So he was a mentor of mine.
Yeah.
Towers came down and he got tasked to put together a executive protection team for Deutsche Bank right around the towers and then secure the vaults that had all the gold bullion and the bearer bonds and everything from Deutsche Bank because one of their buildings was damaged. And he's like, hey, dude, I need some guys to come down. I was like, bro, what do I know? I'm a fucking college kid, man. What do I know? He's like, dude, you and I have spent the last almost 2 years together training and working, and I know you better and trust you more than a lot of dudes I know. And he's like, it's easy job. You'll learn the job, and you'll be my right-hand man. So I went down there and started doing security and executive protection for Deutsche Bank down at Ground Zero. And on our off rotations, we'd go volunteer on the bucket brigade and go like pull out people or, you know, body parts and stuff like that. That was wild. That's something you'll never ever forget is the smell. When you'd go back home and you'd shower, the smell that would come off your body from Ground Zero, you never ever forget that smell. It's wild. So we did that for Did that for a couple of years. Obviously, like only a few days after the towers came down for about the next 2 years. And then I got hired down in New Orleans as a New Orleans policeman. So all the guys that I worked with that he ended up bringing in were all former special operations guys. And I was like, what do I do now? Like, that was the only thing that I wanted in my life since I was like this tall. What do I do now? And they're like, dude, well, it was a couple of team guys. And they're like, dude, we used to go down and do FMP's full mission profile stuff down in New Orleans. He's like, those guys are crazy. He's like, the New Orleans guys shoot and kill more people every year than we do, you know? And I was like, that's where I'm going. So, yeah. So
send me the next or the best spot.
Exactly. You know? So, yeah. So I went down to New Orleans, became a cop down there. And, you know, I don't want to say I carried a chip on my shoulder for the first 10, 15 years, but I was always like, could I have made it?
Well,
what's the difference between me and this guy?
Yeah,
you know, like
that's naturally, I think, going to be there, you know, right. And it's not, I don't know if you would call it a chip, but it's definitely something that, because it's something that you wanted to do and that you strove and like put in all the work for it, and only to be like told like you can't do this because you have a peanut allergy. I mean, that's going to leave a mark on you.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mark that you can choose to like, either you can sit there and have a chip about it and be like, this is bullshit and blah, blah, or it's like, okay, I can't do this, but I'm going to prove myself.
And that's
I'm going to prove that I belong in what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And that's exactly, you can use it for good or evil sort of thing, you know? And so I just kind of set my mind to where it's like, I don't know the difference between me and those guys. I think I could have done it. But I'm going to prove to everyone that I will never, ever, ever be the weakest link. So I just made sure that, you know, I just every day try to be better. Every day try to be better. And whether it was PT and working out or fighting or shooting or, you know, planning missions or whatever, right? So, you know, like most cops.
Why do you think people put special operations guys so far above, like, law enforcement guys? I mean, they're so similar in a way. One's guarding internally in our country, the other guys are.
Well, I'll say this as a general rule, right? So special operations, let's just say special operations as the pie. So you know, you got naval special warfare, you got AFSOC, Air Force special operations, USASOC.
I'm actually following most of this.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm getting it down.
Yeah. So let's just say you've got the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marine Corps. Yeah. And let's just call that the Special Operations Command, right? You know, whether it's SOCOM or JSOC, but let's just say Special Operations in a bubble. They do a very, very good job of vetting, training, and getting the cream of the crop.
Where law enforcement doesn't.
Law enforcement.
Well, I think the standards for special operations are a lot higher.
Much higher.
Right?
Much
so
higher.
You have to, in order to be in that, whatever unit you're going for, you have to meet that standard.
Right.
Not just to get in, but each and every day, right? You're supposed to be, you know, graded on like, hey, are you being
that's right
what we want, right? And that never stops. But as far as like it, just from my experience and like especially working with law enforcement now and everything, you have guys in law enforcement that are of the same, cut from the same cloth. Like, and it's not all of them because the standard is not there, right? But you do have dudes that hold themselves to a higher standard than the law enforcement would actually, you know, hold them to, right? So you find most of those guys, what I've seen in like SWAT units, like the units that are like, hey, we want to go kick down doors, we want to, you know, raise our right hand to go and put ourselves in harm's way for others. And that's where I think the special operations units get all this, you know, like, oh my gosh, or whatever. And those guys are sort of left to the wayside a little bit because they're in a group of people that the majority of them they're not living up to that standard.
No, for sure. And exactly what he said. So it's like, you know, I meet Eddie. Let's use Eddie, right? And I meet him. I have no idea who he is. I don't know Eddie Gallagher, right? And he's a SEAL. I immediately know something about his character, his intestinal fortitude, his discipline. Immediately. It's the same thing if I meet another jiu-jitsu black belt. I don't need to know the guy at all, but I know something about his character, right? He could be a total asshole. You know, he could be a degenerate, but I know he's got something. that we share, right? And it's kind of the same thing. But Eddie's right. And there are some organizations, some agencies, some teams, some units around the country in stateside law enforcement that do model the special operations model.
Yeah.
Where it's, and primarily it's in their special operations division, right? So SWAT, et cetera. And like, the SWAT team that I came from, and I kind of tried to help build this even more, but it's on a smaller scale. So it's like we can't do a buds. We don't have time to run guys through months and months and months and months of a evaluation process. Our selection, so you've got to meet some requirements to even apply to come to selection, right? And that's usually seniority, time, obviously no negative situation reports, complaints, et cetera, right? And then you can apply for selection. Our selection course is a 24-hour vetting. Right. And it's a smoke fest. It's 24 hours of a smoke fest and see if guys have the intestinal fortitude to actually put up with it. Right. And it's like, we start it kind of like they get called out middle of the night. They get to see the sun come up and get a little warm. And then they think it's all over. And then the sun goes down and it starts to get cold again. And then they're wet. And it's like, unknown time, unknown distance sort of thing. And that's how we keep it. We know it's 24 hours, but
you don't let them know.
We don't let them know it. And they don't know when they're going to get called out. It's, a lot of like the runs and ruck marches and stuff like that are unknown time, unknown distance. So they don't know how long they're going to be going for. If they complete the evolution, then they sit on an oral board with the whole team and the entire team has to vote yes. If there's one no vote on the team,
they're gone.
They're gone. Right. And then once they get the vote, now they're a non-qual. They're not qualified. They haven't been to SWAT school. They're support guys. They're on support and probation for a year, basically. When a SWAT school comes up, which we run our own SWAT school, they'll attend the SWAT school. That'll get them their basic SWAT qual. And then they're still kind of it's OJT as a support guy. As they go through their probation, the first real role they'll get is a perimeter on the perimeter team, maintain the perimeter, and then eventually they'll work their way up to an entry assault team.
Yeah, I mean, and that's understandable. That's a good build up to it as well.
On a smaller scale, and but same thing, like shooting quals, PT quals, their individual job quals all have to be met. You're judged every day. You're not like, oh, you made it cool, huh? Like they don't get their SWAT pin until they actually get through probation a year down the road. They don't actually even get their uniforms. We've got these old uniforms that they have to wear. That's a different camo and stuff.
Like, hey, you're not
exactly.
there yet.
You ain't there yet, homie.
Yeah.
And the guys that are like, hey, I'm in it, and we boot guys all the time. So.
And that's the way. I mean, that is the way it should be too, as well. I mean, with the SEAL teams, it's almost the same way. I think everybody has a misconception. It's like, oh, you went through BUDS and SQT, and then you got your Trident. Like you're in, right? And to a degree, you are, right? You're like, hey, you earned your Trident, and this is the way it is now. Back in the day, you had to show up to a team and actually go through a board at the team and they were the ones who determined whether you got your Trident. They switched that to where now everybody goes to the same training to get their Trident. But even when you show up to a platoon, it's a lot of platoons will be like, take it off, and they put it in a cage, and it's like the bird cage. They're like, you're not getting this back until we deem it that you're worthy. Yeah, you're worthy. Or some platoons don't do that. I did multiple.
Like that?
I think there's
kind of like that. I don't know.
I like the idea of it because I've been in a platoon where we did that, and then I've been in platoons where you don't do that, where you're just like, hey, these dudes made it, they have a Trident, let's teach them. And there's that also. Like you should be bringing those new guys up to understand the job. You should be bringing them up so they can take your position, right? I think what can happen is, especially if you take the Tridents and put them in a bird cage, and you do have some individuals that are like little protectors, and they're like, oh, like the guys can't do anything right no matter what. And you're like, dude,
it was harder when I went through.
Exactly. And that's where it becomes a problem, where you're having, and you can have some E5, E6 saying like, I don't think they deserve it, I can look at that guy and be like, well, I don't think you fucking deserve it.
Yeah.
Dude. So there is, I mean, it becomes down to like a personality thing. But I do think either way, you should be, the bottom line is this, well, you said it, it's, you should be earning it every day.
Yeah.
The second that you show up to work and you're like, whatever, I got it. That's when you're like, dude, you're not there. And you'll see that, honestly, that attitude a lot of the times when guys have time in the team.
Yeah.
They're on their third rotation and they get this like, yeah, I'm good, I'm in. And a lot of those guys get their egos crushed because it's like, dude, you're not as good as you think you are. No. And you should never think that.
Look, none of us are.
Yeah, ever. You should always be striving to be better, which is what makes units like the ones that you were part of or special operations unique. It's there's a driving force in that where it's like you should be striving every day to be worthy of being there.
Yeah.
And that means trying to make even 1% better every day.
Well, that's it. That's what I tell people all the time. Look for the 1%. Look for the 1%. Because, and the reality is too, and, and I don't mean this to come off in like an arrogant chest beating way, but you get to a level of his time and career experience training, my time in my career experience and training. We're not going to glean or learn these massive things, right? What we are going to pick up is 1% every day. I guarantee we're going to the range tomorrow, and I guarantee you I'm going to learn and pick up something from him.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be this little tiny morsel. Now, what? And it's going to mean the world to us. It's going to be the biggest thing for us because that's what we're looking for is that 1%. But we're not going to go to the range and completely change our grips or our stances or learn how to shoot, right? Yeah. And so, you get to that point.
It's kind of like jiu-jitsu, like it's purple belt versus black belt. It's like all those little details.
That's all those little details. And that's the thing. Like I always tell guys, hey, a purple belt in jiu-jitsu is really just a black belt that needs to sharpen and get time and grade.
Yeah.
That purple belt, you kind of know, none of us know everything in jiu-jitsu, right? But that purple belt, you kind of know like everything you need to know in jiu-jitsu, right? And now you're just sharpening,
you're mastering your craft. Like
exactly.
I think, by the time you get to purple belt, it's like, yes, this is your craft.
Yes,
right?
You're in it. You're in it. You're a SEAL. You're a purple belt. And
it's the same thing when you're in a special operations unit. You put enough time in, you can be like, you know what, this is my craft. Like, this is what I do. But now it's like, well, now master it.
That's right.
Now continue to try and master that craft and be better each and every day. And I think there's some people that once they get that, oh, this is my craft, they sort of plateau and they're like, I don't see why I need to like perform at another level or constantly work on the little nuances, which is like that attention to detail and just the little things. When you talk about clearing rooms, it's like, hey, instead of putting your foot here, why don't you put it over here?
That's
or
right.
Like, why are you, take 2 steps back and now that's where you're supposed to be. It's little things like that.
Which for you've done it in real world so many times, you understand. If you put your foot there, there's going to be some time that
there's a reason.
There's
a reason why stuff is being put out, just like in jiu-jitsu. It's like, hey man, shield, bring your knee up here and shield this, and you're like, what? And it's like there's a reason for it.
Because if you move your knee that much, I'm going to do this, exactly. Sort of thing. Well, it's the same thing, and same thing like CQB, and I'll say this from a law enforcement permissive environment guy to a special operations non-permissive environment guy. And I'm really fortunate. When I didn't get into it, we can talk about it, but I got to spend part of my career overseas, primarily based out of Baghdad, working with task force and a lot of these guys as a support element, basically, from the intelligence community. So I got to see both sides, and I got to work in permissive environments, and I got to work in non-permissive environments, and I've gotten into shootings and gunfights stateside, and I've gotten to shootings and gunfights overseas in war zones, and there is a drastic difference. Yeah. There is I get it. Bullets are bullets, gunfights are gunfights, gunfighting tactics are tactics, but I will tell you this from my personal experience, and maybe this is just the way I take it. It is a lot harder. It's a lot more difficult to pull a trigger on someone in the States than it is overseas in war. Way, way, way harder. In war, bad guy doing something what they're not supposed to be doing, cool, it's a war zone, whack, 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 and you're schwacking them. States, Is it a gun? Is it a cell phone? It's dark. Do I need to shoot him? Are they giving up? Like, it's like.
There's a lot more on the line.
There's a lot more on the line.
Yeah, if you do engage that person, it's like, well, now you're. And what I've seen with law enforcement, even if they're in the right. Like
you're getting fried.
Yeah. Or at least you're getting pulled aside and be like, guess what? You're sitting out now while we investigate this shooting, even though it was completely lawful.
That's right.
And so yeah, I think pulling the trigger stateside, there's a lot more. Yeah. There's a lot more stress that goes into it, and I completely agree. I have never done the job stateside, but I mean I've done it enough overseas to know like, yeah, man, like because mistakes are made overseas all the time.
For sure.
But there's not.
We're human.
Yeah, and you're not going to get, well, like I say before and during the war, you're not going to get hammered until.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, but it can happen.
Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly, and it does. And when it does happen, it's like, oh shit. Yeah. But that's why I don't even go down this tangent. But that's why we started our foundation, is because I realized, I'm like, dude, if military people are going through this, dude, law enforcement is going through this on steroids. Like they are getting hit on every single day on everything that they do, and they're not getting the backing they need.
I mean, look, that happened to me. I was involved. So it's actually, I say it's my claim to fame, but I was involved in the second officer-involved shooting of 2010. So a BART officer had the first one. A BART, San Francisco. It's the BART. It's the subway police station, authority transit, something like that. Whatever.
In Dallas, they called it DART.
Yeah, DART, and in California it was BART. He had the first one. I had the second one at like 3:03, I think is the timestamp. But so I was involved in this shooting, but same sort of thing happened. Good shoot. Guy shoots at me first. We gunfight for about a city block and a half. Guy dies around the corner, gun in hand, finger in the trigger guard. Right? Casings, bullets. Yeah. Everything's there. All the evidence is there. There's no you're not manufacturing anything. But after I engaged the guy in the car, after I engaged him from inside his vehicle, because that's when he shot at me first through the rear window, I engaged him in his vehicle. He bailed out, and then he was running like this, shooting at me. Right? So I'm shooting him. I'm just stitching him up the side. And the next day, the news article comes out, and it says, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. It's been a long time. This was 2000. This was 15 years ago, basically. And it says white police officer, white New Orleans police officer shoots young black Gentilly man in the back 13 times. And that was the news release.
You're like, that's not true. I shot him 15
Exactly. It was 15 times. Right, exactly. And that's what was released. Well, I shot him 8 times. There was total of 13 wounds, right? Entries, exits. Yeah. Actually, one of the rounds, and I only know this because we get to see the autopsy report afterwards, right? One of the rounds took his pinky off, left a groove in the 30-round extended magazine out of his Glock 26, railroaded, left a groove up his arm, went into his armpit, and then through both lungs. Oh, that shows you. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that he was pointing a gun at me. It literally took his pinky off, right? And I got reassigned. I got pulled out of my unit. I was in like a pretty high-end, high-level like street crimes unit, plainclothes street crimes unit, going after bad dudes. And I got assigned to the horse stables the next day. Well, a few days off, and then when I came back from my days off, I got assigned to the horse stables. Homicide cleared me on the shoot. Everything's good. All the evidence is there. You're clear. Good shoot, man. Okay, cool. When do I get to go back to my team? Well, just pastors started getting involved because it became a racial thing. Yeah. And next thing you know, the optics. Next thing you know, I'm getting a knock on my door at 6 a.m. I go to my door, and it's 2 dudes in suits, and it's the FBI trying to force their way into my house, basically. And so then I was being investigated by the FBI for civil rights violations. And then someone posted my home address on the internet. So it was like, and fortunately, I mean, it was like a good shoot. The FBI ended up looking at it and harassing me for several months and then going, wait a second, there's nothing here. Yeah, like, what do you want us?
Even if it was.
But it's just.
Did you feel, though, like when they were investigating you, they were just targeting you?
Oh, 100%.
That's the problem, right? It's like, dude, I have no issue. Cool, man. You want to investigate every shooting? Great, dude. That's fine. But don't go into it with a bias, because that's what happens each and every time.
That's right.
like that an article like that comes out, white cop shoots black, whatever, and it's like, yeah, those are the facts, but it was a good shoot,
right?
But the problem is, because that article states that, then the FBI gets involved. They make it a civil rights thing, and you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're treated that way, and people have no idea like how stressful that can be either on an individual.
No, massively.
Or their family.
Well, especially someone like us who has sworn an oath to defend the Constitution or defend our community and our citizens. And I became a cop to be a protector. I wanted to go in the military to be a protector. I wanted to go hunt bad guys, not write tickets, not, I want to go hunt bad guys, predators that preyed on the weak. And that was what I believed in my heart. And now you do that. And I mean, nothing, of course, in the article released that he had a 12-gauge shotgun sitting on his passenger seat with a bunch of extra 12-gauge rounds sitting there. He had another spare 30-round magazine for his Glock 26 at 3 a.m. after a shooting had just come out, call for a shooting had just come out with a car matching his description like 3 blocks away.
Yeah,
no one mentions that, right? So it's like, what is he doing at 3 a.m. with all that, And, so you feel targeted. And the biggest thing, too, is like accidents happen, mistakes happen. Even if it was let's say it was a bad shoot. Okay, investigate it, right? We're human. We make mistakes. But it was a good shoot that should have been cleared immediately, but because it became a racial political thing and the pastors got involved in the churches in New Orleans, and then they put pressure on the chief, who was also black at the time, I'm now getting targeted for it. And I was literally told, sorry, we can't back you right now. We can't put you back on the street. There's too much. How about stand up for your guys that did the right thing? Smash the dudes that did the wrong thing. And I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
But how about actually back your guys that did the right thing?
What do you think it is? Because that is like the number one problem that we've seen, not just, and obviously it's in the military, right? If you have piss poor leadership, if you have weak leadership, then that is going to trickle down and affect the force, because guys know, like, nobody's got my back. Right. So why would I want to go do the job, right? And I definitely see it in law enforcement all the time, like, especially because we help out law enforcement more than anybody, because you guys are constantly being targeted. But it's like each individual that we help out, it doesn't matter what state in the country, it's always comes down to the leadership, kowtowing to the media or whatever narrative is being put out there. Like, well, we can't back you, and it's like, well, where does your backbone go from this rank to this rank? Like, when does that get taken away? Yeah, because that is a common theme that I've seen.
I blame us. I blame cops. It's our own fault. Because the hitters don't want to promote.
Because they want to keep doing the job.
They want to keep doing the job. And if I promote, let's say I take the sergeant's exam and I move to sergeant, okay, I can still kind of be in the thick of it with my team, right? Now more from a team leadership perspective. And I may have to stay back at the office and approve reports and do some paperwork while the other guys are out catching bad guys. But now I'm a lieutenant. A lieutenant you promote, okay, now you're getting pulled out of that team. You're probably going back into a uniform, into a district or precinct to be a lieutenant for a while. Yeah. So the good guys don't want to promote.
The further you go up, you get more administrative.
Yeah. And do you think the guys that do promote, and maybe whether it's their choice or not, like they're like, yeah, I want to promote, either I want to promote or, hey, you're getting promoted. Do you think a part of that, I guess, is they have a chip on their shoulder towards the guys that are still doing the job? So when the guy does something, they're like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that in the
for
SEAL
sure.
teams.
Absolutely.
Where guys pick up rank real fast. They've done 3 platoons, and all of a sudden they're a platoon chief or above, and they're no longer operating. Right now, you're in a administrative type thing. I've seen it to where I was like, dude, you have a chip on your shoulder just because you chose to promote fast and move up the ranks, and now you're in an office job. You can't hammer the guys that are still kicking indoors, or the guys that chose to stay there.
Right.
But I've seen that as part of it.
Yeah. I find, so and there's not a ton of examples of this, again, because like the good guys, the hitters, don't generally want to promote. The ones that take that burden on, well, I can't complain about it unless I'm willing to do it myself, so I'm going to go ahead and promote. Mm-hmm. They're usually the really good leaders, and they usually get forced out.
Yeah.
They're the ones who usually get forced out by the admin, because the problem is, and it's the same thing, if you want to promote, you probably aren't the one that deserves to get promoted, right?
Yeah,
it's that sort of thing, right? Yeah. You're a careerist. And that's what I find is the people that promote generally in law enforcement are careerists. So they're riding the line. They don't want to do too much work. They don't want to get in trouble. So they're going to do just the bare minimum. They'll answer the calls for service. They'll write the reports. They'll write the tickets. They'll do all this. Sergeant's exam comes up. Cool, I'm going to take the sergeant's exam. They pass. They study. They're a good test taker. They get promoted to sergeant. And now, okay, well, now I'm a sergeant, but I really want to be a lieutenant, so I can't ruffle any feathers. And I've done good this far. And, man, I got these two guys. I got Eddie and Greg. They're on my shift, and they're stirring up shit every night. You know, and they're going to get a complaint, and that's going to look bad on me. So it's like, I'm going to separate the two of them, you know? And then it's like, so then their hitters on their squad or whatever are getting punished, you know? And that's essentially the way it goes. And so you get all these, now you get all this rank, right? What we call rank in law enforcement. So you get sergeants, lieutenants, captains, then majors, chiefs that are just kind of like careerists. And now they're worried about their next. Okay, so what's next? I'm a chief now. Ooh, I could be mayor.
Yeah.
You know, I could be mayor, or I could run for sheriff, keep climbing that ladder, but I need to not ruffle any feathers, you know?
It's the same in the military. Yeah. It's just different nomenclatures or whatever ranks. Yeah. But yeah, it's you see a guy come in, and I actually heard this, another team guy, Master Chief, say this a couple weeks ago. He's like, if you come in to the teams, or even like just say in the military in general, and you're like, I'm going, like right away, I want to be the Master Chief of the Navy, right? Chances are you're not going to, but also you're not what we're looking for.
No, for sure not.
It's you should every day. It's like you should just one day at a time. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm going to crush this today, and then tomorrow, whatever's in front of me, I'm going to try and crush and do my best. But if you have this like, you know, goal of like, I want to be in charge one day, it's going to show eventually too when you're younger, and people are going to be like, dude, you're not the one that we want on the team.
No,
because
100%.
You're a careerist. All you care about, because the job itself, and I think that's what it comes down to. The job itself is selfless, right? Yeah. Like you are doing it for the man to the right and left.
100%. And if you have any other optics about it than that, you're wrong.
Yeah, then you're self-serving.
You know? Yeah.
And I think we definitely have seen a lot of that over the past 4 or 5 years of like these self-serving leaders, and it's in law enforcement and the military as well. And the drastic like changes it has when you have those self-serving leaders on the people that they're leading. Yeah. And that's why, I mean, the military has a huge retention problem. That's why the law enforcement has a major retention problem, or just getting people in, or getting the right people.
That's right. Yeah. They're not. And the massive recruiting problem, massive retention problem. And I saw, it's funny you bring that up, because I saw something on Instagram on my feed, and it was like, when you realize that your team winning is more important than you winning, is when you've made the next evolution into leadership, you know? And it's like, for me, when I was a young guy, all I cared about was being the best teammate I could be. And when I say that, not being the best teammate for my guys, right? I never wanted to be the weak link, but I always wanted to be value add on the team. I need to be the best teammate I could be.
Yeah, an asset
for the guys. Not because I wanted to be the best or wanted to show. I needed to be the best for you guys to make sure that I wasn't the weak link between us, right?
Yeah.
And then ultimately what happens is then you start getting looked at more, you get picked for certain things more, you get like you get moved up. That's going to happen. But I never looked at anything other than that. Even, you know, my last team that I was with, so contracting, I was in the United Arab Emirates for about 4 years. I lived over there as a mentor advisor to their Royal Guard and their counterterrorism guys. And it came time for us to move back to the States. I moved back to the States, and I still had some time in my commission where I could get my police commission back, right? Louisiana's got a 5-year term, and I was like at 4 years and 7 months or something like that. So I called a buddy of mine at a local police department. I said, hey, dude, can I come on as a reserve just to get my creds back? And I was working for this wealthy businessman doing his protection and stuff for him. He's like, yeah, come on. So I got my police commission back, got all my quals so I could carry and do all that stuff, and I'd go put in some time. I'd teach the SWAT team every, once a month or whatnot for my hours. And I was just overdoing this protection work. And then the sheriff's office, who is a big regional team, it's the 3rd largest agency and parish in Louisiana. So it's a big agency, like 800 sworn. It's a big agency. And a 24-man billet team. We had a helicopter at the time. Like it's a regional team, and now we have a true hostage rescue capability. Like we spent a lot of time with HRT when I got there, and we started building this hostage rescue capability. But explosive breaching, night vision, all the armored vehicles, a helicopter at the time, drones, actual assault canine, like the whole 9 yards, a legitimate team. So my buddy's like, hey, why don't you, you thought about coming back? I was like, yeah, dude, every day. He's like, why don't you come over and come back? And I was like, all right. I was like, I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll come back. And so I meet the guys on the team. I'm older than all of them by probably 6-7 years. The next oldest one,
close
still
to a
like,
decade.
Close to a decade, the most of them, But I'm also more fit than all of them, even still. And I'm also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I can beat the shit out of all of them. And I also made sure that I could shoot better than all of them. And, it's just the same thing. Like, don't be the weak link, right? Yeah. I'm not going to rely on what I used to do or what I did or what I just came back from doing. I'm just going to make sure that I belong.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not trying to be the hero also.
No, not at all. I just wanted everyone to know, like, oh, this guy's okay, cool. He can hold his own, right? Mm-hmm. He's one of us. And I didn't want anyone to think I was better than them or anything like that. So I said, well, look, here's my deal. I said, I'm going through the selection. I'm not just coming on the team. I want to be a new guy. Because here I am a new guy. I don't care what my experience is.
Yeah.
I was already an explosive breacher. I was already all this, right? And they wanted to help me. They wanted me to help them revamp their explosive breaching program and bring some of the stuff from like OGA, some of the exigent hostage rescue stuff to them. I was like, but I'm a new guy here, right? I don't expect anything. And so I went through their next selection as 40 years old, and just made sure I smoked all the young guys. I didn't ask for any favors. I did the selection all the way through, sat on the oral board, and they all sat down. They're like, you're already on the team, right? I was like, I don't know that. It's up to you guys.
He is like you, Eddie.
Well, I think there's something to that where, it's like, dude, I've already put in the time, but I want to earn my stripes along with everybody else.
That's right.
And you're not going to gain the respect of the newer guys unless you go through it with them.
100%.
And then, like you said, if you're better than them in a lot of stuff, that's almost like that's setting the standard as well. Like, dude, if I was a new guy and I had some older guy come in selection, and I already, because the guys talk, so they probably already knew, like, you already have massive amounts of experience. But at the same time, just that act of like, hey man, I'm with you guys, like I'm going through with you, that you will garner way more respect than if you had just showed up like, I'm on the team and now I'm putting out knowledge.
That's
guys
right.
would be like, well, I don't fucking know you.
That's right. Absolutely. And that was the case. A lot of the guys on the team already knew who I was. Some of them knew me personally, but their commander knew me. And I didn't ever want to be the guy, Lapin's on the team because so-and-so put him on the team. No, you guys all went through selection to get here. You guys all spent a year on probation before you got your SWAT pin. You all did this. I'm doing it. I don't care what my experience is. Or was.
Yeah.
Right? I'm doing it. So, and like you said, then you get the respect from the old guard, from the new guys, the rookies, all that stuff. And then once I got there, I kind of kept my mouth shut for a few months. I'm a new guy on the team. And then they're all like, Lapin, fucking speak up, dude. Like, what would you do here? I was like, all right, well, here's what I would do here. And they're like, oh, fuck, that makes sense. What kind of charge would you use on that door? Well, here's what I would do. Here's what I would use. And they go, oh, shit, that makes sense, right? And then you can start kind of, inserting yourself.
Implementing.
Yeah.
Do you think
TTPs.
some too? I know.
Oh, she wants her pets now. She's
good.
Sweetie.
Yeah.
Do you think some of it too? And I mean, I don't know. That's not my world at all.
Yeah.
But in my head, I think, just natural skills and ability. Like if you're naturally good at, strategic thinking and high level like administrative type stuff, you're probably not. You're not going to be the door kicker necessarily. Like, do you see some high level guys? Think of like Bernie Carrick or someone like that was really good, high level administrative.
Yeah, I mean, some of the smartest guys I know I've met in this career field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would never ever look at him and be like, that dude's wicked smart.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you talk to him and go, wait a second, you're really fucking smart, dude.
It has the same values
But
and supports the team and doesn't put up with the political pressure and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely out there.
Yeah.
They're definitely out there. It's just
unicorns.
They're unicorns.
Yeah.
They're unicorns.
So if you find one, keep it.
And unfortunately, what ends up happening usually is they end up getting railroaded out.
Yeah.
Like from higher command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's you do. Yeah. And there's my buddies that are still in the teams right now, like in Master Chief positions and everything, and they are that way. Like they're same mentality, except from what I'm gathering from them when I talk, they're living in hell right now.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, it is not the same.
Yeah.
It's completely changed. The whole dynamics and environment has changed, and I feel like they're fighting an uphill battle.
For sure.
Trying to maintain the same standard, and a lot of the times they get screwed because they're trying to hold that standard because they will not conform.
And I just funny because I just had this conversation with a buddy of mine, Mason. We just released the podcast together. He's still active. He's a sheriff's deputy down in Arizona for a very, very conservative, progressive county. Right? And he just got promoted. He promoted. He was on the SWAT team for the last 10 years, full-time SWAT guy. And the sergeant's exam came up, and he's like, I'll do it. And so he just promoted to sergeant. So now he's getting moved off the SWAT team to another unit, right? But we talked about it's an easy solution. It's easy. And I think we could fix it. I always tell guys, give me a moderate-sized city. Don't give me an LA or a Chicago or a New York or anything like that. But don't give me like a podunk 12-man sheriff's office, right? Yeah. Give me a moderate-sized city. We'll even say New Orleans, right? Okay. And give me 2 years. You'll see a different police agency and you'll see different police officers. And so my plan is kind of like the movie we were just talking about. Yeah, she's like, give me some attention now. Yeah, give me some attention. We not recruit, but we end up selecting and promoting based on aptitude and skill sets for certain jobs.
Okay.
I want an enforcement route and a non-enforcement route. I don't personally think that investigators and detectives need to be part of the enforcement branch, if you will, right? Unpopular opinion, right? Unpopular opinion. Go ahead, give me hate. I don't think women should be in enforcement positions in law enforcement. I don't think women should be wearing a uniform, in patrol, on their own, in a one-man car, on a walking beat, driving a police car. I don't think they should.
So in other words, you're pro-woman. Like taking care of them.
I'm pro woman. Look, and I want Viking women. I don't want these meeky little mousy. I want women that are fucking strong and can take care of themselves. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, and I know some women that are badasses and jiu-jitsu savages and strong and fit and can do the job better than most men. And let me preface this too. Right now, current state of law enforcement, I think there's a lot of men who shouldn't be in enforcement positions as well. Let me just go ahead and say that, right? The problem is the percentage of women that you could find to the percentage of men. Same thing with special operations, right? You're trying to find the 0.001% rather than focusing on, let's get a whole bunch of 18-year-old dudes in here and then just weed them down to this, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to find the women? So, in my opinion, I don't think women should be in enforcement positions. That being said, I believe women are better than we are at a lot of things. sex crimes, crimes against children, investigation, detective stuff. They're very, very, very good at that. But you can go and investigate a crime and not have to be walking around with a badge and a gun serving a warrant.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I think people should be recruited and trained for their aptitude. You have an enforcement branch, which is held to a higher, not a higher standard, but a different standard. So physical fitness, right? Physical fitness, de-escalation, shooting, grappling, fighting, crime fighting.
Yeah.
And then you have a non-enforcement branch, which is your investigations, your detectives, et cetera, and they are held to a different standard of aptitude, of investigation, of critical thinking and analysis, et cetera.
Yeah. I have I'll play devil's advocate.
Yes, please, yeah.
So, and I'm talking specifically about the investigators, the detectives or the people that actually, when something happens, they're the ones who are going to come out. We're going to determine what went on. Do you think that them not being door kickers at one point or having that background sort of negates, like they wouldn't know how to properly investigate or be like, or be in the same headspace as the door kicker that they're investigating. You know what I mean?
Experience.
Yeah.
So, and it's a great question. I'll tell you, I can only use my own experience, right? When I was a patrol cop in uniform, I didn't learn shit. I didn't learn any of that. As a patrol cop, you show up to the call, you answer the call. It is what it is, and any sort of like reports that you're actually writing, if you're writing the report as a patrolman, it ain't a real crime, right? If you're writing a report, if you show up to a serious crime, you're going to write your initial gist and it's immediately getting turned over to a detective, an investigator. So, Patrolman Greg Lapin shows up to a murder and I might be the first car there. And it's like, I walk in, oh, there's a dead guy there. Let me get crime scene tape. Nobody come in.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg Lapin showed up at this date at this time and noticed a body laying on the floor, and he immediately called homicide. That's my report, right?
Yeah.
So you don't really learn that stuff. But where I started to really learn how to investigate was when I became a narcotics officer. And that's where you learn how to like investigate and write reports and all that stuff. So I think there's actually maybe a better pathway of you get in, okay, hey, you tested very high in aptitude and investigation, and you're not that physically fit. You're going to be in the investigative branch, but then same thing. You're going to be a rookie, and you're going to work your way up. You're going to get attached to a senior detective. You're going to shadow him. That's your FTO, right? Your field training officer. It's like I was real lucky. I always joke around and tell a story. So when I came out of the academy, I was same thing. I was kind of like, hey, that Lapin guy, that Lapin kid, you need to put him with so-and-so. So I got put with an FTO who is a narcotics guy for a long time. And he became an FTO because he was a single dad, so he could pick the shift that he wanted to work, right? So he only became an FTO to pick his shift so he could work day shift, day watch, and drop his son off at school and pick his son up. Johnny O'Brien. Johnny O was jacked, dude. About our size, but like this. And like you just heard stories of him, right? He was a savage narcotics detective. And I meet him day one, and I'm in my like mid-20s, and same thing. I'm about 20 pounds heavier than I am now, so I'm like almost 200 pounds, and no neck, and no legs either, because you didn't squat back then, right? You only did like biceps and lats.
Curls for the girls.
Plots, ma'am.
She's
plots.
Getting spoiled.
Yeah, and I show up and I introduce myself to him, and my uniform's all tailored. I get my uniform tailored and everything's clean. I've got my briefcase and my bag, and I'm like, I'm going to be the best rookie ever, right? And I'm like, hey, what do you need from me? What do you want? Like, tell me what you need me to do. Like, you want me to put us 10-8? And 10-8 means we're ready. We're on duty, right? 10-8's like we're ready for duty. He goes, no. He goes, put us at the station doing vehicle maintenance. I was like, all right, what's wrong with the car? He's like, nothing. Just put us at the station doing vehicle. I'm like, beep, like whatever our call sign was like. I was like 231. Put us at the station doing vehicle maintenance. Okay, beep. I'm like, all right, what's going on? He's like, get in. And we jump in the car and we take off. And he goes, see all these calls holding from overnight? car theft, burglary, vandalism, ladies' cats missing. If you put us 10-8, they're going to put us on one of these BS calls. He's like, we're going hunting. And he drove me straight to the hood, and we're driving down the street, and he goes, grab that guy. Grab that guy. And I bail out, and I grab him. And sure enough, dude had gun and dope on him. He's like, there you go. There's your first dope and gun arrest. Welcome to policing, right? And he's like...
The way you describe it makes me think of Training Day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of,
You're in the office.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like what it was. And I mean, this is New Orleans in like the early 2000s, And sure enough, he's like, all right, put us out here. At the time, he's like, put us out on a 21. 21's like a miscellaneous call. You don't know what it is. Put us out here, so they've got our location. That way they mark us up from, like, we shouldn't have done what we were doing. What we're doing violates every protocol in the book because they still have us out in the station, and now we're, like, way on the other side of town jumping out on some dope dealer with a gun, right? And so I put us out. We mark it up. We make our arrest. We take the guy to jail. We go right back out. He's like, don't mark us up yet. Mark up means we're done with the call, right? He's like, don't mark it up yet. Like, leave us on the call. We're going back out hunting. If you mark it up, they're going to send us on one of these things holding, right? These BS calls. So, I mean, that was literally like day one with him. And he knew the guy. He's like, next one. He's like, yeah, get on that guy. He had the experience. And he knows the guy, the next one. And he's like, go grab that guy. And get out. And sure enough, the guy starts running. So I take off running after him. And Johnny doesn't do anything. He just stands there and watches me run off down the street after this dude. And I chase the dude down the street into an alleyway, tackle him, get a little bit of scrap, get him in handcuffs. And I'm like dragging him out, walking him out of the alley. And Johnny literally just walks up. And he just started walking down the street. And he walks up and goes, he's like, all right, Lapin, you're okay with me? You're okay with me? Cut him loose. Huh? He's like, cut him loose. He always runs. Don't worry about it.
He's just testing you out.
Yeah, he was just testing me out, man. He was just testing me out. So, yeah, that was the start of my law enforcement career. I was like, okay, I could do this. But kind of going back to, like, the kind of chip on the shoulder, wondering if you could, I get it. I'm sure there were, right? But I don't remember a shift that I worked where I wasn't in a foot chase, a car chase, some sort of physical fight altercation, responding to a shooting, responding to an officer-involved shooting, or it was like literally every night with the units that I worked with in one of the most dangerous cities in the country. It was like every night, it's like there was a shooting every night, at least one shooting, multiple shootings every night. We probably responded to an officer-involved shooting once a week, if not once every other week. Like, it was crazy. It was madness. So I got a lot of cool experience.
That's awesome. So how long were you in New Orleans for?
So 2004 to officially 2011.
Okay.
Was with New Orleans police, and I contracted. I took a 1 year leave of absence in between there and contracted for a year overseas.
Is that where you went to UAE?
No, that's when I went to. I was in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, for about 6 months, and then I was in Baghdad for about 6 months.
All right.
And I did that for a year, came back to policing, and then after my shooting in 2010, I was reassigned for about 6 months, and I was like, guys, put me back or I'm resigning. Am I under investigation still? They're like, no. So if I resign, I'm not resigning under investigation, right? They're like, no, you're totally clear. I was like, well, then let me back out on the street. They're like, well, here's my letter of resignation. So I resigned. I was fortunate. I had an opportunity to contract again, so I started contracting again. I kept my reserve commission with another agency so I could maintain my creds and just, once a month, like, do my quals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Contracted for a while and then did that and then came back and finished up law enforcement.
How was contracting in the private world? Was it kind of boring?
Some boring, some super cool, some very, very boring, and then super cool for like 15 seconds, We were talking about it today a little bit. I was lucky. I was very lucky. And I say that because when I started contracting first with Triple Canopy. And Triple Canopy at the time had the highest, most stringent selection course out there. And it was run by a bunch of former unit guys, and they didn't even vet dudes. They wouldn't even bring dudes in for vetting that didn't have like a certain amount of special operations experience. It's like, well, Greg, how'd you get in? This is the biggest how do you go from being a regular cop to doing this? I was fortunate. I was lucky. I was friends with a former Green Beret who worked for Triple Canopy, and he was pretty high up. He was original Car's Eye Detail guy.
Okay.
From the Car's Eye Detail, and he was like essentially one of the plank owners over at Triple Canopy. And he's like, look, I will vouch for your name. I will vouch for your name, and I'm going to put your resume forward. Once you get accepted to go to selection, you don't know me. No one else is going to know that I vouch for your name. That's not how it works. You don't know me. I don't know you. Well, I said, fair enough. So he vouched for me, put my resume up. I get called to selection, and I'll never forget this. We drive up to this cabin. It was at the old Bill Scott Raceway up in Winchester, Virginia.
Yeah.
Remember that place? I don't know if you ever went there.
I think so.
Yeah, BSR, Bill Scott Raceway. So we drive up in all these white 16-passenger vans. There's like 40-something dudes, right? And it's all guys like him. And I'm like this cop. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm among giants, you know? And at the time, that's what I thought. I was like, I can't screw up. I can't mess up. These guys are like war fighters. These guys are special operators. So we grab our bags out of the van. We hustle in the classroom. The lead instructor goes, hey, gents, your names are on the desk in alphabetical order. Drop your bags in the back. Find your name. Have a seat. Pretty simple instructions. Judging by your name, Gallagher, G, you kind of know probably roughly where you fall in the classroom and roughly where to start looking, right?
Yeah.
Lapin, L, I kind of know roughly, like I'm going to almost be kind of in the middle of the classroom. That's where I'm going to start, find the L's. So we all sit down, and there's one dude still walking around looking for his name. And the lead instructor goes, hey, sir, what's your name? And he says whatever his name, Joe Schmuckatelli, whatever his name is, right? And he goes, go ahead, grab your bag, head back out to the vans. Grab your bag. Go back outside into the vans. And he grabbed his bag, walked out, and everyone just got quiet. Mm-hmm. And he's like, gents, there's 40-something motherfuckers here, and I get it. You're all the greatest. If you're the last person to find your name in alphabetical order, that means there's 40-something dudes better in this room than you are. Get ready every day, sort of thing. And I was like, oh, this is for real. So it was a 30-day selection. I got selected. 15 of us graduated out of 40-something. I got selected. And then you're just staked on your reputation. You're staked on what you bring to the table every day. So it was funny. Most of my career in contracting all went the same. Anytime I'd go to a new team or a new guy would come in, before they get to know you, no one's going to ask you where you came from. But they're all making assumptions. All right, he's still in good shape. He's got good hair, and he's kind of tan. He's probably a SEAL. That's always what I got.
Yeah.
Always got. They always thought I was a SEAL first. No one would ever ask me, right? And then finally they get to know you enough, like, dude, what unit did you come from? Where'd you come from? I was like, oh, I was a cop. And then you're a shitbird immediately, right? They don't even need – you're the same dude, but right away, oh, you are like – you don't have a long tab. You don't have a trident. You're not dual, like, whatever. And then you're a shitbird. And then you get into some sort of shit or some, like, little critical incident, and you perform well, and it's like, oh, Lapin's a good dude. I don't care where he came from. Mm-hmm. So, fortunately, I just kind of, again, 1% better every day, held myself to a super high standard. If we're working out as a team, I made sure that I did every single exercise with them. And if not, try to be better than them, at least be in the top level. If we're on the range shooting, I need to make sure that I was a better shooter. I'd go home from deployments, and I'd shoot USPSA every weekend just to make sure I kept my skills sharp,
Keep that sword sharp.
Exactly. And that was like my progression through contracting. Every team I ever went, it was like, oh, Lapin's a good dude. I wonder where he came from. Oh, Lapin was a cop. He's a shitbird. Oh, Lapin's a good dude.
Start the cycle over again.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So, but it was cool.
That's awesome. So you contracted, and then when were you completely out?
Like out law enforcement and everything? Like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was August. It would have been August of 20. It would have been August of 23. August of 23. I sent my resignation in. Well, they knew. I already told them I was resigning. I sent my official resignation in via email on Monday. Was scheduled to turn in my equipment on Wednesday, and then drive out to Utah on Friday to start the thing with Fieldcraft.
Okay, so you had that already set up before
I had that
you got
already
out,
set
right?
up. And that was why I got out. That's why I left.
Okay, and that's and obviously that was when Mike was the owner of it.
Mike was still running. Yep. Yeah, Mike was running the show, and I had met Mike through a mutual friend I flew out to Utah with my buddy, with Greg Anderson, to go meet Mike, learn about Fieldcraft, do his podcast. And that's when Mike kind of let us know his vision for the new headquarters. And he basically said, can you guys help me find a professor to run the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program? I was like, yeah, sure, we'll find some guys. And I was like picking my brain, and I did the podcast with him, and then he learned about the rest of my career, the rest of my background. You know, I'm a big off-roader. I ride dirt bikes, I off-road, and I raced cars for a few years, and I'm a pilot. And he was like, dude, he's like, I need you. You do it all. And I was like, nah, I'm pretty good. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm in a really good team. I've got a jiu-jitsu academy in Louisiana. I'm pretty happy. Well, we see where that worked out. And honestly, I'm not from Louisiana. I needed to get out of there. I was one stupid comment from like a major or chief away and being like, here's my keys, here's my badge, here's my pistol. The rest of the shit's in my car. Have a good one, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was time for a change for me. I saw the writing on the wall. I was fortunate that I had a really good team of guys behind me, and I had kind of brought them up. I reinvigorated the explosive breaching program and the dog program, where I helped start the dog program, and I made sure the guys that were kind of my juniors were ready to take my job.
Yeah.
So I was honestly not needed. I was really not needed, you know, as hard as that is to say sometimes.
Yeah,
I was not needed. The younger guys, the younger guys were more enthusiastic. They were studying more. They were faster. They were stronger. They were better.
Well, you need that. That's how it should be.
And that's how it should be.
You know,
and a lot of us can't get it. Now, there is some old dog wisdom. There is some old dog wisdom when it's like, you know, I remember one call out we were on, and there was a barricaded gunman. Everyone else had gotten out of the house, so he's in the house by himself, and all the young guys are grabbing their gear and running down the street. And I got a rigid foam charge over my shoulder, and I'm walking. I got my breaching tool, all my gear on, and I'm walking. They're like, let's go. I'm like, boys, we can walk.
He ain't going nowhere.
He's not going. Yeah, there's a perimeter set up. It's hot as shit. There ain't no one in that house. Let's walk. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can walk. Yeah, you know, so there is some good old dog wisdom, you know. But yeah, so it was time for me to go. So I sent my official email in on a Monday, was scheduled to turn in all my gear on a Wednesday. Tuesday morning, my alert system went off, and we had a barricaded gunman that was actually killed her husband. And the husband crawled out of the house, got a ride to the hospital from a neighbor, died on the way. So the warrant and everything was all set up, and she was ready to go. And I put a folding foam linear charge on her door, 110 grain folding foam linear on her door, and clacked that.
Have fun eating that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And that was my last stop. And like I turned in my gear the next day, and 2 days later drove to Utah. So, so I finished with a bang, quite literally.
Not a lot of no downtime. Just like boom.
That was it. Yeah. So I ended up going out to Utah and.
Now, what is Fieldcraft? I've heard you mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Fieldcraft Survival is a company now based out of Provo, Utah. That's where our headquarters is. It was founded by Mike Glover. Mike Glover's a retired Green Beret.
Okay. I've heard of his podcast.
Yeah, had a pretty good career, pretty amazing career. He was with a unit called the SIF company, which is the Commanders and Extremist Force. Mm-hmm. Which is so funny because they moved it out of the SIF because in extremis sounded too bad. They made it the CRIF, Crisis Response Force. You guys had the CRE.
We have the CRE, the Crisis Response Element.
The element, right?
So, completely different.
Totally different, guys.
Yeah.
So you guys have the CRE. It went from the SIF to the CRIF, Crisis Response Force. Then they're like, we're doing away with the CRIF completely, and they disbanded the CRIF. And made it it was like the hard target unit for like deep underground stuff, the Doug unit, deep underground, and now guess what it is again? It's the SIF again. It's the Commanders and Extremist Force again.
A lot of promotions happened in between all those name changes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the same thing, right? So
what I mean by that, Dave, is usually an officer comes in and it's like, and they all look to like put their stamp of like, I changed something.
That's
and
it.
It's like, I'm going to change the CRIF to this now, and they'll leave, and then another officer comes in. You know what? I'm going to change the name to this, and that's how they get promoted.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, the whole thing stays the same.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same. Yeah. It's nothing. So it's just every officer needs to put their little little stamp of approval on it. So anyway, Mike was with some pretty good units. I know there's a lot of people that don't know, that never did anything in the military, that hate on him. He wasn't with Delta Force, the unit, CAG, whatever. He did go through selection. He did make it through selection. He did not go through OTC, which is Operator Training Course, to become an assaulter, right? He was with a mobility recce sniper platoon attached to the unit. So he was with the unit for a while, which just getting there is a feat amongst itself. Just getting through selection, is a feat amongst itself. So anyway, retired as a sergeant major. Yeah, as a sergeant major out of SF, out of Special Forces. Started Fieldcraft Survival. It is what do? We do a lot of different stuff, but it is basically we focus on civilians training, preparing, making them capable. And I don't mean building militias. I mean everything from like survival in storms, survival in catastrophic incidents, right? Land navigation, how to get out of a city if your GPS is down, how to land navigate if you're stuck in the woods. We do shooting courses, pistol and carbine, self-defense shooting courses. We do a couple other like more specific kind of boutique courses that are a little bit higher level. So we have a training branch. We have a media branch that we use media marketing. So we have a really, really big YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is like almost 1.2 million subscribers on our YouTube channel. Instagram's pretty big, X.
There's a big market for, you see that. I know there's some probably with SEALs and stuff there. The dude who's an accountant during the week and then he buys all the gear and all that stuff. But what I do like though, I think that's kind of silly, but what I do like is you're training regular. It's bringing back masculinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're training people, even though I'll never be proficient like you.
I disagree.
Not with that attitude.
Yeah,
right?
not with that attitude. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, this bottle's half full.
I can be better, right? I can be at least
Absolutely.
some level of training.
Well, yeah.
I'll never put in the work like.
Well, but that's what it comes down to is the work and time. Yeah, the best shooters that I've ever known and met are civilians. The best shooters I've ever met, if they were in the military, they got recruited out of high school to go to the Army Marksmanship Unit and shoot competitively. The best shooters that I know don't come from the Special Operations Community, few and far between.
Yeah. No, that's a fair statement because and during my training, I train guys and I'm like, dude, but there's a difference. Like you can shoot. Great, and that's why I like when guys show up. I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's freaking a hammer.
Squared away.
Wait, right? But then you can still advance them because it's
100%.
like, cool, man. Like you've got that down. Now let's start working on tactics and what you should do if you do get yourself in a gunfight. Because yes,
square range is a little different.
Shoot all day long on a flat range and or even the IPSC courses to where it's like where all the targets are.
Right.
You already have it pre-planned in your head. Hey, this is how I'm going to run this. That's not reality.
No.
And that is where you can progress those individuals. Like, all right, now let's start putting you in certain situations, do some stress inoculation, see how you handle yourself. Because shooting at the end of the day, and this is what I try to explain to people, like, yes, you should focus on getting better at shooting, but only because if you find yourself in a situation where you do have to pull your gun, that shooting should be just like 0.5% of your bandwidth.
Yeah.
Because everything else that you need to think about at that moment is going to acquire a lot of your bandwidth.
Oh, 100%.
And so if you're not proficient in shooting and you're like, oh, shit, now I got to remember how to do this and this and this, and you've just taken up half of your bandwidth, right? And now you only have a little bit left to actually perform the tasks that need to be done to either
gunfighting.
Take that individual out, make the maneuvers that you need to do, provide aid, do whatever you need to do during that gunfight. And that's a good thing.
100%. And I love, and that your whole concept of it is spot on. And that's why I tell people, I go, guys, this is a shooting marksmanship course. This isn't a gunfighting course. We have those too. But like to your point, Eddie, is like your marksmanship, you need to be an unconscious competent in marksmanship if you want to be a gunfighter. You need to be an unconscious competent. I need to be able to draw my pistol or drive my rifle out and not have to think about my optic, my sight picture, my safety selector, my trigger control, right? Where my buttstock is placed, how my grip is. I need not have to think, because that eats up bandwidth.
Yep.
So your marksmanship,
monkey brain,
lizard brain. You know, it's like, so I tell you, like, before you can get into gunfighting, right? Because that's like the elite portion of this. You need to have your marksmanship dialed in to a pretty high level. And then once you have that, okay, now I can hit a buzzer or say gun, and you can draw and whap, 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 reload, whap, 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 cool, without thinking about it. Okay, well, now let's start getting you to move offline or move on an oblique angle or maneuver on the aggressor, maneuver on the enemy. Okay, now we're going to do it crouched down behind cover and concealment behind a car. Okay, now we're going to add a buddy to where you're going to engage, you're going to make eye contact with me, move, and we're going to start bounding or moving, right? Because now we start adding all those tactics, those gunfighting tactics into it. But you got to have, if you don't have the marksmanship piece, you're either thinking too much and now you're not making eye contact with your buddy. You're not watching your muzzle as I'm moving over Eddie's shoulder, right? Giving him the squeeze or whatever it may be. Now I'm muzzle sweeping him. Now my weapon's still on fire or whatever it may be. Or I'm just not hitting shit downrange, you know?
Yeah.
So it's.
And that's what y'all do. Y'all take private citizens through trainings like that.
Yeah. So we basically have 3 different pistol programs, and then a mirror image with the carbine. So, you know, like essentially level 1, level 2, level 3, as we move them up on higher degreeing levels from, you know, it's all stress inoculation based, but level 1 is like, this is a gun, right? This is the muzzle. This is the buttstock. This is your pistol grip. This is where your magazine, establishing that baseline. This is how you take it apart. This is how the gun works. Because all guys are good at a few things. Just ask them, they'll tell you, right? All guys know how to shoot guns. I know how to shoot a gun. Right? And where do they learn how to shoot a gun? Maybe on the farm plinking cans or watching movies, you know, going to the range and right? And it's like, dude, we need to work on this a little bit. But so then we work them up, and then like our next level 2, now we're talking about fixing malfunctions. Now we're talking about different ready positions. We're building, really what I call it, we're building the foundation. We're building this big, broad, stable foundation for marksmanship, combat marksmanship, what I'll say, right? Not standing shooting a bullseye at 25 yards, but building that combat marksmanship into a big, strong foundation. And then, like, for example, in 2 weeks, I'm going out to San Bernardino, and I'm teaching essentially like a vehicle fighting class. So where we're utilizing vehicles, real cars on a range. I'm going to do a ballistics penetration test for everybody so they can see with their own eyes what stops bullets, what doesn't, what happens when cars get shot, what happens to targets inside those cars when they get shot at, what happens to targets on the other side of the car when they get shot at. I skip rounds off the hood into a target. You know, so I'll put a target like, say, right here, because most people want to get right up next to the cover. And I'll put a target right here, and I'll make the head like real low. Yeah. And I'll skip around off the hood straight into the head. And then I move that target back 3 meters. And I do the same thing, and there's no hits on the target. Right? That distance,
so little
in depth,
things.
Little things. And we live our life. You know, like we live our life, you know, and I kind of attribute me being alive today to distances like this, ricochets off of door frames. Well, there's a whole reason when we get to a door, we're coming up to a door, there's a reason that we stand a certain way, that we step 45, that we don't stand in the fatal funnel, that we utilize depth, we combat clear from outside that open door if we can. Angles and distance. That's what we live on.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, we live on angles and distance. You know, it sounds crazy, but
your sex life was about that. I said your sex life was about that distance there.
Has Andrew been talking to you again?
No, the pants. When he shot you through the pants.
Oh, yeah. I almost got my
your junk shot off.
My junk shot off. I still have the cami.
Oh yeah,
there's a hole right through it. Yeah.
Ooh, like through the crotchal region. Yeah. So you didn't get hit.
No, it burned though.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh my God! Holy Jesus!
Against my leg. Yeah. That was a. I said, thank God I'm Irish, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Good Lord. Well, I was gonna get a vasectomy. I don't need one now, sort of thing, right? Good Lord.
But yeah, I mean, but those, like, even with that was a learning thing for me, because it's not like I went away from that like, oh shit, you know, I went through and it's like, okay, what did I do for that bullet to like travel down and smack me in the pants? Like what? And there's something I could have done better, and that's how all these things that Greg's talking about, all those lessons are learned from that, from experience. We're not just like putting stuff out to put stuff out or be like, oh, it looks cool on YouTube. And that's where I find it frustrating sometimes. And we talked about this earlier, is like you have guys that show up and they're like, hey, I want to learn, but really they just want to touch the magic or, I just want to hang out and this and that. And it gets very frustrating because you're like, dude, I'm here to work.
Right.
Like this is
the magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like, hey, I want to tell me some stories, man. Tell me some war stories. And you're like, well, there's no time for that, dude. Like we need to train. And you'll have some individuals that you, the more you do it, you read it, you can read like, okay. And sometimes, man, it's like, all right, well,
I would see private guys coming down there going, I've seen this where they come down there, they're like, hey, what I hope to get out of this, I'll pay you $5,000 for a weekend, $10,000 for a weekend, whatever. You probably, it's a decent business model, honestly. I think you have enough private guys that want to come down there and they're going, my deliverable after I leave there is, 3 Instagram clips of me looking cool.
Yeah, well, and that's what a lot of it is.
Yes.
And so that's part of kind of what I'm doing with Fieldcraft is trying to shift some of that mindset for people, and I'm forcing them to do it with our programming, and we can get into that. But kind of on what Eddie's saying, and it's like there are some guys that come out of the industry, whether they're SWAT guys or special operations guys or whatever, and I like to call them enter-trainers. So they're half entertainers and half trainers.
Nice.
And,
thinking about that for a second.
Yeah. They're half entertainers and half trainers, right? Yeah. And they start to, it's human nature. You start reading comments and all these people are talking shit about you. Eventually, you read enough of those shitty comments, you go, man, am I a shitbird?
Yeah.
Or you start reading comments where everyone's like, man, he's the man, Eddie Gallagher. Oh my God, he's amazing.
Yeah. Which is even worse. And guys start to believe it. Yeah.
Right? So then you get some of these guys, they start believing the hype, and then they just start running courses just for people to kind of hang out with them. And there's not a whole lot of instruction, and they spray and pray a bunch of bullets, and they take a bunch of pictures and say a bunch of war stories. My whole thing is like, I can have all these people think I'm the coolest, greatest guy in the world. Greg Lapin, I'm going to go to the mat tonight, and no one's going to give a shit who I am. They're all going to try to choke the life out of me.
Yeah.
I'm just a regular dude. And I tell people, like, guys, there's no difference between me and you. The only difference, the reason I'm here standing in front of you teaching is the government, whether it was a stateside city government or the United States government, put a shit ton of money into me to make sure that I was trained to a certain level to survive and they could maintain their asset.
Yeah. And now I want to pass that knowledge off onto you.
And that's all I want. It's not to take pictures. It's not because I think I'm this awesome thing. It's I have knowledge and experience and capability that I think you guys can benefit from, and I want to give it to you.
Yeah,
that's all. That's really all it comes down to for me.
But hey, can I throw another perspective?
Absolutely,
in my head, just because I don't like very different backgrounds, right? I'm about y'all are, your service and everything, which you. As a private citizen, you're like super thankful of not just SEALs, but law enforcement too. I think most guys are, but as the thought of from a business side, I'm like, man, they just want. I don't know if you can change that mindset in some guys. Maybe you can change it like you said, through programming, you can get them from, hey, I came here for 3 Instagram clips to make myself look cool with my buddies in accounting, and to wear a bunch of cool gear and stuff. But, and to hear some cool stories. But now I left here going, man, there's so many areas I get to work on and I can grow in and build a confidence in.
There's that. And here on the instructor standpoint of that, right, and which is why if I run a course and I have, it doesn't matter how much people with money that show up, right, and they're like, hey, this is what I want to do, and maybe that's it. They're like, I just want to learn a couple things, have some cool Instagram reels. In my mind, I'm like, if I put you through a 2-day course and all you leave here is for the couple things and 3 Instagram reels, and you go to another course and you're like, oh, I was trained by Eddie Gallagher, and you can only do those couple things, that's bad on me.
Yeah.
right? That makes me look like shit. So that is why I'm pretty stringent. I'm like, no, I'm not. And to be fair, like if you want to take pictures and do, like, I'm all about that, man. But that is for after work, right? We put in the time and effort. You should be proud of, like, hey, I just put in a bunch of work for the past 48 hours. Definitely, I want to get some pictures with these guys because we bonded in some way. You know, we've been through like some stressful situations, and I've learned, I've overcame it. I'm a better person leaving here. Yes, let's take pictures and celebrate that. But if you are trying to do that while we're training and constantly interrupting and constantly like, oh, well, what if we do this and that, and it has nothing to do with the curriculum, then, dude, this is not the place for you, man, because I want you to learn.
I like that perspective because you're giving them both. You're going, hey, you know, we are going to train, and you are going to, you know, you are going to be proficient. One of the things I think of, though, from my perspective, is you guys have, for what you've been through, and you haven't gotten paid that well.
No.
To be honest. Like, and so I think of it as, dude, if you can now have guys fly in on their private jets and do that and charge the crap out of them, and y'all start making good money, I'm like, great.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, I think, and that is the dynamic, and you can speak on this too, which I think a lot of us have a problem with, right? Is I especially had a problem with is, what are you worth, right? What is my time worth?
Know your worth.
Yes, and Dave, you've counseled me on this numerous times. I think Andrea and my wife definitely counsels me on it, and it's like I'm not doing this. Money doesn't drive me. No. It doesn't at all, and I can honestly say that, and my wife will definitely tell you that. Like, it's frustrating, but I do know I need to make money, right? And I'm fine with, like, yes, I need to make.
You're on the opposite side. You're trying to like money some. I could the reason I like money is because it provides for my family. Yeah. Like, it feeds all the mouths I need to feed. You just need a burrito, I'm not looking a sweat, a hoodie. Simple.
There you go.
Yeah. But at that same token, I've learned over time, like, if I'm not charging a certain amount, then I'm not walking away with much, for sure. And I'm putting in a lot of sweat equity. Yeah. Like, you can, like, when say I do 1 day range, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to put on a whole day. That's 3 days for me.
Yes.
Because I go in the day before, I do the whole setup, bring out all the steel, move cars around if I need to, if we're doing a vehicle course. I mean, it's a lot of front work, and then also when the range is done for the day, usually, by 5 or 6 in the afternoon, I'm not like, now I'm going to break this all down. So I might come back the next day, break it all down, clean up, do whatever I need to do. That's 3 days out of my life where if I'm not charging, a certain amount, then I'm working for free 90% of the time.
And you're also bringing, depending on the size, I mean, I've been through them with you. You're bringing in other guys.
You're bringing in AIs, paying a range, paying AIs,
and that's
assistant
especially
instructors.
If we're doing CQC or something like that, that's like, hey, man, I need more bodies in the house, so guys in the rafters. And that costs money, and which is, I will say, if you want to take a CQC course, number one, I'm going to vet you first and make sure you're proficient on the range using both weapon systems. But at the same time, that's also going to cost you because it's a very dangerous skill set, a lot more dangerous than I think anything else that we train. So yes, I'm going to need extra eyes that I need to pay, right? And I have no problem with that. But just like I tell people up front, I'm like, it's gonna cost you more than just doing a flat range, for sure.
And as it should.
Yeah.
As it should. One, you're also, it's like this vehicle CQB vehicle fighting course I'm doing. I'm charging a premium for it because generally as civilians, you're not going to be able to go to a course like this and learn this information and seek out this information, and it's the same thing with CQC, CQB, CQC is like, that is a niche skill set that not everybody gets, like, for real it gets. It's like you got the training at a very, very high level of it. I got the training for it. It's like, it's like, so, I was having this talk with a buddy of mine who is an SF dude, and he was actually defending me because someone was like, this guy's just a cop, blah, blah. He's like, folks, I guarantee you this man has more real world operational raids, actual CQB experience than I do. It's like he was doing, whether it's opposed or not, it's all high threat.
Yeah.
It's all high threat, so
but
it's
you're not just paying for, I think guys aren't just paying for the time you put in, you know, the day before, the day there. It's not like, okay, Eddie's worth, well, the amount of time you put in, Eddie's worth $5 an hour. You know, it's like, it's not.
That's what it comes down to.
It's not even that. It's, dude, you have a 20-year stellar career of all sorts of experience and all that, and they're paying. So, like, think of, you know, a lawyer. A lawyer's one lawyer compared to another lawyer. You're going to get, and it's not necessarily the time, it's the whole background and experience that you guys have. Yeah.
People know the cost of everything and the worth of nothing.
How come you think? Guys like you guys that have just dedicated to law enforcement and SEALs really struggle when they get to the end of their career now going, hey, make a ton of money?
Well, kind of, and I think this is where Eddie was going, and I don't want to speak for him, but I had a really, really hard time knowing my worth. Mm-hmm. So when people would want to hire me, even when I was still like as an active SWAT guy or when I was contracting still for the government, and I contracted at a fairly high level, supporting a lot of what these guys did, I'd come home and run courses, or people would call me up and say, hey, can you work this gig or work that? And I would just, yeah, sure, no problem. Or I still run into it. I've got someone now that before I quote anybody, I call my buddy up and go, hey, dude, here's what's going on. This is what I was thinking about quoting. He always goes, dude, Lapin, you should charge 3 times as much, right? Yeah. I was like, really? Yeah. How about if I just do 2 times? He's like, okay, right? You know, and like something came up, they want me to fly somewhere, and they want me to put on this like kind of shooting dog and pony and a speaking thing, and they're like, how much would you charge? And I was like, well, pay my expenses and, you know, $5,000. And my buddy was like, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, you should be charging at least double that. Like, you know, because, yeah, it's a day for them, but you're flying out the day before. You're away from your business. You're away from your family. You're away from all your life. You're there for one day, and then you're flying back. You're gone 3 days. And what are you losing or missing out or paying other dudes for back home while you're gone? Yeah. And you're doing it for $5,000? I was like, but for me, that's good money. That's big money.
Well, that's,
you know?
Our Neanderthal brains were like, dude, that's fine.
That's $5,000, bro.
And but what I also think is huge that nobody talks about it either in this industry, you know, because everyone's, you know, comes from some similar background, or like, I'm tier 1, I'm tier 3, I'm this. It's like, that's great, man, but what kind of teacher are you? Like, or do you have the ability to break down information that people can absorb, and are you situationally aware enough to that not everybody learns the same way? So can you pick up, and that's what I sort of pride myself on, is like I can have the ability when I have like maybe 5 to 10 people on the range, right? And because especially if I'm working it by myself, you know, you're going up and down after every time they shoot, you're going up, showing them like, hey, dude, you need to fix this, do this, and just realizing like, hey, there's some people that learn from immediate like feedback, like, hey, dude, do this and this, and they'll pick it up. But there's other people that need some extra time. There's the way you talk to them, the demeanor that you have. Absolutely. And you need to be able to sort of switch that up a little bit so that each person that joins your course takes away something
100%
every time. Because if you teach the same exact way and you're like, this is the way it is and blah, 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 yes, you might have 5 people like leave like, dude, awesome. But you also might have 5 people that like, bro, I didn't learn shit because the way he was putting out the information. Yeah. So you have to be able to be self-aware and be like, okay, dude, I need to like really pay attention to each individual and how they're absorbing information. Yeah. And I've seen tier 1 dudes that I've worked with, fucking like this most stellar operators, like, I'd be like, dude, I'd fucking follow this guy anywhere. Yeah. I wouldn't have him teach one fucking
100%
because he doesn't know how to disseminate the information. Right. He has it all up here.
Right.
And a lot of those guys get frustrated because they're so used to working at such a high level that when you're working at a high level unit like that, if someone's not picking something up, it's like, dude, get the fuck out.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done.
Cool. Like, I told you twice and you didn't get it. You're gone.
And that's what they're used to. Yeah. But now you can't have that when you're teaching civilians.
I've told you 17 times, but we still have another 6 hours on the range because we just got started. So, look, put your hands out. I'm going to put my hand over your hand. Put your finger on the trigger. Don't press. I'm going to put my finger on top of your finger, and you're going to feel how we squeeze the trigger, right?
Yeah. And
you know.
And that's one of the the traits that you need to have as when you come out. But that's also like going back to what you're charging. I mean, that is also like if you have students in which that's what I started, thanks to my wife. She's like, you need to have them fill out critiques, or like have them write in like, hey, this is what I enjoyed or didn't enjoy about it. And she was like, everybody enjoys your courses, not one negative comment. She's like, that's how you should be charging a little more.
For sure.
Yeah,
it's true. Surprisingly, like, you're really good at teaching it, and I think some of it is when you go into it, you really care about them learning.
Yes.
Like, you really care for them to learn. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not there just to be
it.
there. I'm there because I want you to learn.
Yeah, he's not there for photos for Instagram.
No.
That's my whole thing too. Is I tell people, like, look, my main priority on the range is always safety.
Yes.
My close second is you leaving here today with an enhanced knowledge, skill set, or capability that you can then go practice. Because I'm not going to make you a gun. You're not going to get that much better in one day.
No.
But I can give you something that now you can take home and practice properly to get better. And I tell people, like, my second priority is you leaving here with that. If you have fun, cool, that's icing on the cake. Yeah. I'm not here to entertain you or have fun.
I'm not going to juggle. I'm not juggling in front of you.
Exactly, right?
At
it's
the
like,
end of the day, you're like, shit, I got to take a reel. Andrea's telling me I have to post something to Instagram. And so you're always like, dang it, I got to video myself.
Well, that's part of it too. I think that's another thing we have a hard time doing is marketing ourselves, right? Because we come from a environment where it's like, you don't talk about what you do.
Right.
You should have pride in what you do, but that's about it. Like, you should not be out there boasting or doing whatever. And I think from my standpoint, when I got out, I looked at like marketing myself or doing that as like I'm boasting, or I'm like, oh, look what I'm doing. And that's the wrong attitude. I learned eventually, like, yes, there's a way to do it in a professional level. Like, hey, this is what I do.
But that's the right attitude. It's going back to those who want to promote probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Those who want to post all that shit probably shouldn't be. But your attitude's correct. But there is a right way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just finding. I think for guys, like me and Greg and other guys that come from the thing, it's a hard thing to like find that middle ground, or like, okay, yeah, there is a correct way to do it and a professional way to do it. And as long as you're still living by the same code that we lived in, I mean, believe me, there's a way around it to do it.
Yeah.
Where you're not being a complete douche.
I think what it comes down to is be authentic. Be authentic. Mm-hmm. Be yourself. Yeah. Right? People, if you go to my Instagram page, I'm not doing a wardrobe change to wear one manufacturer's stuff that I don't normally wear.
Yeah.
I'm not switching out a gun to get a logo in that I don't normally shoot. I'm not posing for a workout that I'm not actually doing. Like, I'll tell my media team, hey, guys, I'm doing a workout at this time. Let's get some footage. Mm-hmm. Cool. And they're there. And I'm just doing my workout. And they're just moving around with me with the camera. Yeah. Hey, guys, jiu-jitsu. I've got a couple black belts coming. I'm going to get some hard rounds in tonight. We're not staging the rounds. Like, if I get my ass handed to me, you're going to see me getting my ass handed to me on Instagram. I'm cool with it because there are people that are way better than me. That's just the way it is. There are people that will kick my ass. There are people that will outshoot me. There are people that will do everything better than me.
Sure.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But when you try to like stage these things or make yourself look awesome all the time, dude,
it comes through.
It comes through.
Yeah,
I started boxing again. I used to box when I was young, and I haven't hit mitts in 10 years. And I recorded myself so I could just critique myself. And I got my buddy who's holding pads for me, and I'm striking. And I'm like, oh, this is horrible looking. Good Lord. Like, I look horrible. Like, my range is horrible. My footwork's horrible. I look like I'm wearing concrete shoes. Like, you can hear I'm hitting hard, but like, I'm like, it's bad. And I posted it. I goes, this is what happens when you don't do something for 10 years. I look like shit.
Yeah.
And then people, dude, you don't even know how to strike. This is horrible. I'm like, Cool.
That's why I posted
Give me
it.
2 months, and then we'll test that theory. Come visit me, because I know, like, you got to start practicing again. You got to start striking again. Like, if I didn't shoot, it's perishable. If we didn't shoot for a year and we got back on the gun, we'd be kind of a mess. If I didn't grapple for a year and then I got back on the mat, I'd be kind of a mess. It's all perishable, and that's that 1%. Do something every day just to keep that blade sharp.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I will say having a media team or a couple media guys makes posting way easier because I just have them do it.
That's where I'm working myself too. Yeah, we got Isaiah, who's phenomenal. He actually helps us with the podcast, and then I have him. I was like, dude, because I think I came back because I was, I just like you. I travel, put on courses. I'm always on planes, and I'm like, dude, I don't. It's not at the forefront to like, I need to post, I need to do this, which it should be sometimes because it's like, hey, you have obligations. So I finally was like, I told Andrew, I'm like, I need to hire somebody. I was like, I'll pay him whatever just to keep that off my plate. And that it's gotten so much easier.
Absolutely. And again, kind of going back to like knowing your worth. The thing is, you do have, you're a value add. You're a value add to society. Plain and simple. You are. Whether we think we are or not, whether you think you are, you're a value add to society. And people want to hear and know what you put out. And whether you're a civilian or me, that's one of the things that drew me to you. I'm like, oh, Eddie's a fucking salt of the earth dude. Like, he's just a regular dude, right? Yeah. But people want to hear what you, and if you don't, you're almost, we're not doing our part anymore.
Yeah.
Part of that whole self-service thing, right? But I want to put that information
guys
out.
That like you that are for real on off like camera. You
get what you get.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think from the private world, it's like not only you don't mind paying extra. Well, it's a different level. Guys are like, this is business. We get it, and you go when you said, hey, 10,000 to fly out there or whatever you quota. And I mean, a lot of them probably don't even blink at it, right? They're like, okay. Yeah,
a lot of them don't. And I'm like, damn it, I should ask for 15. Like, oh yeah, that sounds good. I'm like, oh man.
But if they didn't, you're not screwing anyone. It's almost like if they don't want it, they'll just no.
We're our own worst enemies. We get in our own way because of that.
Yeah.
We get in our own way because of that. And like you said, it kind of comes down to, like, they're not paying for one day of me coming out there.
Correct.
They're paying for 23 years of experience and heartache, and they're paying me for a broken L4, L5 and a broken C5 and 3 surgeries and a torn LCL and a torn MCL and a torn pec and TBI and all this shit. Like, that's what they're paying for. But we don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Because we just suck it up. We just eat it. Like,
what we're trying to do.
This is part of my experience. This is what I've been given. And yeah, I have TBI. Is my brain kind of fucked up? Yeah, my brain's kind of fucked up from eating overpressure for over a decade, and getting blown up a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm trying constantly to know my worth. Every time something like that comes up, go, okay, what should I charge for this? Well, yeah, dude, I'll just come out there. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's
what I want to say. But then I'm like, well, that's not a business. And I can't put food in front of my kids or a roof over their head saying, I'll just come out there.
Well, I don't think of it as like know your worth. Like, y'all's worth, even to society, y'all's worth is tremendous, but it's knowing your market value in that sense.
Yeah.
Like what people will pay for.
Right.
Right. Y'all don't think about it as like what people will pay for. It's like what can I push myself to charge?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you charge what people will pay for.
That's right. You charge what the people will pay for.
Out there that would pay a lot of money just to spend time. And some of it, I think, too, is, I mean, you got some guy that's, if he's running companies or has his full life, will he train a little bit and get proficient? But some of it also, it's like jiu-jitsu. They're doing it for a bigger game, which is maybe a mental confidence or, something that they see about their life, something they're working through, maybe some big business deal or whatever. And that physical activity gave them that aha, Which for them, maybe that's, $20 million deal or something like that. And so totally worth it to.
I will say, now that I've kind of taken the helm of Fieldcraft, and there's more people I'm responsible for than just Greg Lapin.
Yeah.
It's made it a little bit easier.
Well, that too, yeah. I think that would make it. It's like if you had individuals that you had to take care of, then I would have no problem being like, dude,
Which that should be our family. We should think that way. We should think that way.
I do have that, right? Like, that's my family.
And you do take care of them.
Well, yeah, whatever money I make, it's going, goes, boom, there you go.
Of course.
That's how I've always done it. I'm like, I'm here just to provide and protect, and that's my job. Mm-hmm. But I think if you had, like you said, you have a business that you took over, which there's individuals underneath you that are counting on you, that they're trying to provide for their families.
That's right.
Then that brings it to a whole new account.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now I got to charge, so everybody eats.
That's right. And it's no longer Greg Lapin coming out to teach or speak or do this or that or consult. It's Fieldcraft is coming out to teach, and it's like with Fieldcraft, it's a bigger machine than just me.
Mm-hmm. Did you were you able to keep on a lot of the cadre that were working there?
So no.
Okay.
And it's not could I have. I chose not to. So Fieldcraft in my vision and what I saw, and again, this is just my own opinion, so opinions are like assholes, right? Everyone's got one. They all kind of stink. Yeah. But I personally think Fieldcraft grew too big too fast. And they hired on a bunch of people to help run this kind of bigger machine. And then they wanted to start teaching courses all over the country. And they were doing a poor job of vetting instructors. And, there were some folks that were teaching that I personally wouldn't have representing my name, my brand, my reputation. So there were a few guys.
Quality control decision.
Yeah, it was a quality control decision. And then there are a few guys that are sticking around that are still teaching for us that are studs. Yeah. And they represent every aspect of our lifestyle and our ethos. Right. And it's what do you bring to the table today? Right. I don't care what you did, in your career. What do you bring today? And so I kept a handful of guys on that are, in my opinion, at the highest level, not just proficiency-wise, but experience and then teaching-wise as well. Yeah. Because like you said, it goes back to how do they speak to people? How do they teach? How do they run a class, right? You could be a Tier 1 operator and have the most amount of hits and kills and whatever, but if you can't talk to people, then I don't need you in front of Susie, the soccer mom, who's trying to learn how to shoot a pistol because she's scared for her safety. Mm-hmm. We've got to do that. And that's kind of our mission is preparing.
Pick it up, Susie.
Yeah, come on, what are you? Knife hand, oh my God, drop down, give me 50.
You suck.
Yeah, you suck. Right? But I've seen it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I've seen it too, dude.
I've seen it.
It's actually, it's comical when it happens.
Yeah, it's like,
dude, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like you can tell them, I'm brutally honest with everybody. But I preface that at the beginning of the course. And I go, guys, gals, if I'm not honest with you while you're here, that means I don't give a shit. If I tell you some hard truths, it's because I care and I want you to actually get better. I had a guy who came through the last class we did, and it's a really cool program. He was a great shooter. He was the best shooter in the class. I mean, heck, he'd outshoot me or give me a run for my money. Dude really could run a pistol. I was like, dude, you're a great shooter. You run a gun tremendously well. I mean, from everything, all your manipulations, not just marksmanship. I said, but bro, you got to get in shape, dude. I said, because this comes way more than just shooting. He goes, I know. I said, look, I'm not telling you anything. I'm not telling you anything you don't probably know. You know you're overweight. You know you're out of shape. He goes, I know. He's like, that's my new. He's like January. He's like, I hit it, and now I'm focusing on me. I said, good. I'm here to help you. Like, you want to talk to me about nutrition, diet, what you should be doing, workout? Message me. Call me. I'm here to help you. But that's what we need to work on. And I'm very brutally honest with everybody because
you should be.
You should be. You should be.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Especially with law enforcement units that I teach, and God bless them, but a lot of them are overweight.
Absolutely.
They don't focus on fitness. Nope. And then when I'm doing my active shooter consulting and I set up a scenario, and it might be just like the first floor of a school. they can't make it through. And you're like,
they're gassed out.
And I'll pull them aside and be like, dude, you're not getting shot at. There's nothing going on in here right now.
Right.
Like we're on our own time, but you're clearing. I'm like, and look how out of breath you are. I was like, now go ahead and picture 100 kids screaming, running everywhere, gunshots going off, teachers freaking out. You got comms on your, going, stress levels up through the roof. I'm like, that right there is just the beginning.
That's it.
And you need to perform.
That's right.
The whole time. I was like, so if you cannot physically perform the job, I don't care how much you can shoot or do.
I don't care what kind of multicam you're wearing or how cool you look, because I agree, and I tell people all the time, it's not by mistake that the initial metric for any special operations unit, any SWAT team, the initial metric out the gate before you can put anything cool on is a physical fitness test.
Yeah.
That's not by mistake. There's a reason for that, and it's like same thing, like even our SWAT team, a lot of police agencies have done away with yearly PT standards, which to me, that was the downfall. That was one of the initial parts of the downfall of law enforcement culture. You got to take a mild one to get on the police force, but once you're in, no more. Obviously, like our SWAT team, and I think most SWAT teams, we have a pretty stringent. We have a PT test that's mandated by NTOA, National Tactical Officer Association, and then we have our own in-house PT test, which is it's a hard PT test. It's like literally like you better stay in shape because you're gonna have to take this, and if you don't pass, see ya.
You need that metric.
Yeah, you need that metric. This is our Mark I motto weapon system. Our body and our mind. When it comes down to it, you take our guns away, our knives away. What are me and him doing? We're going to hands. We're going to be hitting, punching, grappling, biting, fighting, scratching. Like, that's what it comes down to. That's our Mark I motto weapon system. And if you're not physically and mentally capable, these are just tools. Guns are just tools. This is the chassis. Yeah. And going back to your point, like you're running through a school now with all this chaos and you're getting a massive, massive adrenaline dump. You better be in shape. Someone came up to me, they didn't come up to me and say it to my face. It was a comment. It's like, Greg, you're an elitist. You're an elitist, and like you're so focused on physical fitness and looking good. I'm like, I just look the way I look. I don't work out to like look good. I work out so I can fight other men. Honestly, it's for jiu-jitsu now, and I just look the way I look because of it. And I eat well and I work out. We don't fight with swords anymore. I was like, homie, you never been in a gunfight then, because it's pretty fucking exhausting.
Yeah. And I mean, people like that.
Well, they don't.
They're just dealing with their own issues, and it's like they're attacking you for it. Like, dude, okay, man, then don't be in shape, dude. I'm not like.
Hey, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like, well, the fact that y'all do that, if someone knows you care, that's the difference. That you're telling them that because you care about them and you're trying to help them.
Yeah, and there's a polite, nice way to let them know. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna be like, you fat asses. It's like, no, dude, like, hey, maybe think about going to the gym every day, starting a routine, like doing this and just starting to get back into shape and get yourself better every day. And a lot of guys will take it, like, okay, I'm going to do it. And sometimes you are the person that they're looking at and being like, okay, if he can do it,
that's right,
then I can do it, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just leading by example.
But, and that's the key. And it's like we're the same age, and it's not easy being 46 years old and still in really good shape and performing at a high level. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work every day. I don't take a day off anymore. When I was younger, I used to be able to take 2 days off or whatever and get right back into it. I can't anymore. If I take one day off, I'm like
I lock up.
I lock up.
Yeah.
So even on my off days, I'm still moving. I'm still going to the gym, but I'm doing something light, doing mobility stuff. But kind of going back to knowing your audience, I was up in Washington State with Mike. This was last year, and he was doing a book signing and a speaking engagement, and he asked me to start it, right? Because we were at my buddy Greg Anderson's gym at Jiu-Jitsu Academy. He asked me to introduce it and start it. And, I introduced myself, gave a brief background of who I was, and said, hey, who here is local? I said, who here is local to the area? Within 30 minutes of this location. And most of the people raised their hand. I said, all right. And I said, keep your hand up if you train jiu-jitsu here at this academy. And only one hand stood up. I said, all right, let's talk, folks. I said, you guys are here for book signing and speaking engagement based on preparedness and being prepared. And I said, I look around the room and I said, this isn't a personal attack. It doesn't mean that you're not a good person. It doesn't mean that I don't even know you guys, but most of you are grossly overweight and out of shape. That's just the way it is. It doesn't mean I dislike you for it. But if you're here to be prepared, you guys are you're already starting in a deficit.
Yeah.
And I said, if you're local, you want to be the best prepared, start training jiu-jitsu here, get in shape, learn how to grapple, and become a part of a culture and a tribe and a community like no other. Now you're helping yourself get prepared, you know? But there's a way you can do it. And then people are coming up to me and going, I know, well, what do you recommend I do? I said, start doing push-ups every morning.
Yeah,
do 10.
Simple.
Do 10 push-ups every morning. I can't do 10 push-ups. Cool, do it on a chair, elevate it. Do it on your knees. I said, I don't care. Swallow that pride. Be humble, have that humility, and start moving. Yeah, she's going to be demanding on pets. Where vice versa, when I was with the sheriff's office still, I taught the initial grappling portion for the new recruits. And we would do something day 2 in the academy. And I'd walk up and we'd be all on the mats and they'd be in their PT gear. And I'd go, you guys move over here. You guys move over here. And I'd separate the class. And they just got to the academy. And I go, all of you are fat and out of shape. It is what it is. You guys know that, right? Don't tell me you didn't look in the mirror this morning or yesterday and be like, I look good. And I don't care about looks. I care about performance. But you guys are all overweight and out of shape. And I said, did you get a call yesterday from the sheriff's office begging you to come to the academy? Please, 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 tomorrow, can you come? Or did you guys have 6 months of hiring to work and get in shape? Why did you show up looking and being in the shape you are in? Why? Because you don't care. Now, I don't hate you for it. You can change it. It doesn't make you the person you are now. And if you're willing to work while you're in this academy, I will climb mountains to get you there with you. But if you show me that you're not willing to work, I will climb mountains to get you fired or make you quit. Yeah. Because you don't belong here. If you're not willing to put in the work and you're not willing to get in shape and do this, then go sell cars for a living. It's fine. So everyone needs a car. It's a noble career. I said, but you don't need it to be a career where you might have to run, chase down a bad guy, chase a guy, go save a family, rescue a woman, climb a roof, climb a fence to get into the backyard to save your partner. Yeah. You don't need to do that as a car salesman. You can be overweight and out of shape, but you can as a cop. And so talking to different, and these are all young recruits, so I can talk to them that way. But then also go, guys, I'm here to help you.
But I'm saying this. Joining to be on a team, and it's like exactly. And I would be believe me. when I was in,
I want to see mean Eddie.
Yeah, I was like, if you're trying to be on the team or you're trying to, yes, like, sorry, dude, I'm not your fucking friend. Yeah. I'm not like, are you going to be an asset or a liability? Right. And if you're showing up here fat, out of shape, like, see ya. Like, you're a liability. Yeah. Because when we're out there doing the job and mishaps happen all the time, plans don't go nothing goes according to plan ever. So you have to be able to adjust and flex on the fly, and it takes some physical fitness to be able to do that, because it's like, oh, no, we're not going to go to that ridge line. We're going to do this ridge line over here, or we have to have the buddy carry people out, do whatever. I'm like, and if I can look at you and know that you are going to be a liability on that, get out. Like, because we can't, and we're only, and there's that saying, we're only as strong as our weakest man. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that, like, because you'll have people on the team that, aren't as strong as others, but
for sure
they are physically fit. They're just not picking up. And I do believe that mantra, like, you are only as strong as your weakest man, which is about, you better make sure your weakest man is stronger than about everybody else. That's, for sure. Civilian and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everyone has their traits, right? Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. And some guys can run or ruck forever, and some guys are strong as an ox, and some guys can swim, and some guys can fight, and some guys can shoot. But everyone's bringing overall what I call, when I teach a lot, I draw a pie chart that I call the complete combatant, right? And that pie chart breaks down every sort of skill set or capability that I think someone should have. Now, within the pie chart, you also, like, for civilians at least, you look at the probability of utilizing that skill set. So it's like I take these a lot of people, they like shooting, and shooting's got the allure. And so their slice of the shooting pie is real big, and they shoot a lot. I go, all right, who here has been to a vehicle dynamics high-speed driving course? Nobody. All right, how much time in the day do you spend driving your car versus shooting your gun every day? We all know the answer to that. So probability-wise, what's more important, knowing how to swerve to avoid at 75 miles an hour and not slam into something or roll your vehicle, or having that 0.1 second, that 1 second draw from concealed holster?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you draw this pie chart, but in the military world, in his world, in my world, it's like I had to be able to I had to be a good pistol shooter. I had to be a good rifle shooter. I had to have all my explosive breaching stuff like to a T, right? I had to know how to drive. I had to know how to plan. I had to know how to, land nav, patrol, fast rope, freaking you name it. Like there's so many different skill sets, but they're all doing it at a very, very high level with then some specialties.
Yes. Yeah. We say jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
Like we are constantly, because there's so many things that we have to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And there's not unless the only example I can give is when I was with the Marines and I was in a scout sniper unit, they are masters of that skill set. That is all they have to perform, is being the best scout sniper or best sniper they can be. And dude, they are phenomenal.
Yeah, they're expert. I mean, they're subject matter experts.
They are. And that is where I'm like, boom, they're the masters of that. When I got to the SEAL teams, obviously there's SEAL snipers, but the thing is, you have so many other responsibilities, because you could be me, for example, I was a medic, a sniper, a breacher, all these things. And it's like, no, I'm not going to be able to master.
I got to get this picture real quick.
Oh, yeah.
She's on her back. You see her? She's like this.
But I'm not going to be able to master each one of those things,
sure.
But I'm constantly trying to be better at it. But then it's just, and that's why we're like, hey, we're jack of all trades, master of none. We're constantly trying to get better.
Right. I mean, you're free fall qualled, right?
Yeah,
so you got to worry about free fall stuff and Halo and HAHO operations and understanding all that. You're dive qualled, so then you probably, you got to stay somewhat proficient on diving and draggers and rebreathers and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
even when we go redo that stuff, it's like, hey, we're going to do diving. Guess what we're doing the 2 days prior?
Class. Yeah, studying. Because if you don't
refresh,
do that,
because it's like that stuff, if you're not on it all the time, it's perishable, and you have to relearn again.
That's right. It's perishable. And that's why pistol shooters in general, the best pistol shooters I've ever shot with are civilians, because that's all they focus on. That's all they do. They reload their own pistols. They go shoot USPSA or IPSC or something every weekend. And it's like, for them especially, the sidearm was a secondary weapon system. That was like, holy shit, emergency, everything else isn't working.
Sometimes it wasn't even brought.
Or you didn't even have a sidearm.
I got my primary. Not saying that's the right call. It's just ounces equal pounds.
100%.
And they're like, hey, I'm not. Some guys wouldn't bring their pistol.
And look, if you're doing long-range reconnaissance in the mountains of Afghanistan, I don't really think a pistol's all that necessary.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stuff I'd rather have than a pistol on me.
Yeah.
Well, now you're a direct action unit doing CQB, doing hostage rescue.
It's operator choice.
Exactly. For law enforcement, I always tell guys, young cops, I say, you need to be good at two things. You need to be good at fighting. You need to be good at talking to people. The better you are at fighting, the better you are at talking to people. The better you're at talking to people, the less you have to fight. Right? Because, when you're confident and competent, and, again, I'm not some badass. I don't think I'm some badass. I know badasses. They beat the crap out of me, but I know my skill set, and I know I'm pretty capable. So I can walk up to someone, hey, man, how you doing? My name's Greg. I'm with this police department, this sheriff's office. Reason I stopped you today was this. Or, hey, man, turn around for me real quick. Put your hands on the wall. Hey, here's why I'm stopping you. Here's who I am. And you can talk like that, because I can be polite and smile and still pick you up and throw you on your head if I needed to. Mm-hmm. But it's when they're not, and they posture, and then they don't know how to talk to people, and it's like,
well, yeah, and you're escalating the situation.
You're escalating
by
it.
The way that you're posturing,
100%,
and trying to act like you're some authority figure and you're a big badass. It's like now you've escalated without even knowing it.
That's right.
Right.
100%.
And if you came up just nice and calm.
Because of a lack of confidence, probably a lot.
Yeah,
because of the lack of experience.
Lack of experience, lack of preparation, lack of technical proficiency. You know, and you see it all the time. Like, what do dogs do to other dogs when they're scared at the park? They do one of two things. Well, they do one of three things, right? And it's the fight, flight, or submit sort of thing, right? They start to posture and the hackles go up, and then a dog snaps them and they run away. Because they're not really tough.
Yeah.
You know, they're just trying to act tough. But you see it a lot in law enforcement. Unfortunately, you get these young kids from this newer generation that have never been in a fist fight at, you know, meet me in the park after school, and we're going to get down, right? That's how I grew up.
Same.
You know, and they've never been in a fist fight. They've never been punched in the face. They've never punched anyone. And now they're coming up to someone where their adrenaline's going a little bit. So I got to act tough.
Yeah.
Acting tough is grossly overrated. You know, it's like I'd rather smile and hug people and be nice to people, man. You know, I do all the fighting stuff for fun now with my brothers. You know, with my homies, with my team.
But that's also why you don't act tough, because you also train, and you're like, I don't need, you know.
No, acting tough's overrated.
Yeah. What so as far as like with Fieldcraft, I definitely like revamping the training and getting all that going. Is there anything else that like is revamping in there? Like I know they were selling a lot of like products and like, you know, doing that. And I know that's like a route to go down. And
we're still doing that. We are we're kind of, I don't want to say we're downsizing. We took a machete to a lot of stuff in the business. Again,
I'd say you're specializing, right?
We're trying to go back to our roots and core values. And so we're revamping some of the curriculum on the courses, some of the courses that I kind of talked to you about that we're wanting to do. So, you know, one of the things kind of going back to our talk earlier is like, how do you get more dedicated consumers or students that are there to learn, not just touch the magic, not just take a picture with Eddie Gallagher or Greg Lapin or whoever, is you make it harder. You make it harder. You make a small barrier to entry where it's like, it's not just a shooting course. Guys, you want to attend this course today. You're going to live the life of Eddie Gallagher. You're going to live my life with me today. And we're meeting at the gym first. And we're going to work out. Immediately, that's going to take the tire kickers away.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to go work out? I'm not going there. Right? It's going to take the tire kickers away. Oh, we're going to go to the range. We're going to shoot. After that, we're getting together. We're going to do a 1-hour grappling session, seminar. You don't make it crazy. You don't make the workouts a smoke session. You don't make it's not Fight Club.
Yeah.
We're educating. But it's a barrier to entry. And only the dedicated people that really want to grow and better themselves will show up for that. And then you charge a premium for it, obviously, because it is a lot of time. You know, it is a lot of time. It is a lot of knowledge. It is a lot of expertise. You know, you're bringing years of physical training experience into it. You're bringing, you know, or decades of physical training, decades of shooting experience, decades of grappling. All into one day. It's like, guys, you're getting 3 PhDs in one day.
Yeah, you're walking away with a myriad of
exactly
knowledge.
Bring your notepads. I tell guys, bring your notepads, because we're not just lifting, shooting, and fighting. We're going to be learning. We're going to be growing today together. So we're going to be releasing some of that stuff with Fieldcraft, some of those profiles.
Will that type of training be local around you, or is that going to be? We're
going to export it as well.
Okay.
So we've got one that we're getting ready to put on the books for April 12th. Down just north of Phoenix in Anthem, Arizona. And we're calling this one-day profile We the Prepared. And that's what it's called, We the Prepared. It is one day, and it's a day of, we start like we did this morning. We start with a mild workout.
Yeah.
Move your body. Get a little sweat going. Learn how to lift. Hey, change your form, change your technique, all this stuff to help these guys. We're going to break bread and have breakfast together. We're going to the range. We're going to shoot for several hours together. And then we're going to go to the Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and we're going to do a 1-hour Jiu-Jitsu seminar, grappling, right? And then we have dinner together at the end of the day. We break bread again together. Cool. And, we're going to call it We the Prepared. And it's like, well, you want to see what it takes to be Eddie Gallagher, or you want to see what it takes to be Greg Lapin or whoever. Like, we don't wake up in the morning and have someone powder our faces and comb our hair for us and start our car and get us our coffee. And like, you know, it's like, we're not
I
celebrity.
put my pants on the same way as you do, except when I do, I make
gold records. Bam. Cowbell, more cowbell.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the truth. It's like I'm not famous. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be any different than what I do now. I wake up most mornings at 4:30 in the morning. I teach my first jiu-jitsu academy class at my academy at 5:45 a.m. every morning. You know, I go eat breakfast. It's like, that's my day. I'm not living it for the camera.
Yeah.
That's my day. You want to wonder how I'm in the shape I'm in, or how I can do what I do, or how I can do this. Come live a day with me. Come live a day with me. And so that's kind of what we're offering. So rescaling the training a little bit. We are going to maintain our online presence of retail sales.
Yeah.
But we're narrowing back down to just what I think are the best products we offer. So there's a lot of stuff that we sold because I think they were trying to scale the operation and make it bigger that I think got watered down.
Yeah.
Products that I personally wouldn't use. And so we're kind of going back to our roots. Like the holsters that we're going to be offering are through a separate company. We're just doing a profit share with another company that makes super high-end holsters that I've been using for years. They're going to have a Fieldcraft Survival landing page on their website, and it's going to be the Fieldcraft Signature Series holsters built to my spec. So you don't have to go out and buy this piece and that piece to make the holster perfect. You go there, and it's what I run, and I'll give you the reasons. One-stop shop. You want your concealed carry inside the waistband holster? Cool. You're going to get it, and you're going to get it with a belt claw, and you're going to get it with a foam wedge, and you're going to get it with the DCC monoblock clips. Exactly what I run, because I think it's the best shit out there. Why, Greg? Well, here's why. Here's the why. Okay, that makes sense. You want your tactical holster, you're going to get it with the drop and offset that I run, with the negative degree cant that I run. Your leg strap can be optional. You know, it's like that's the holster package. So
do they get this on? Are there links to it on your website? There
will be. We're in the process of doing that. Yeah, the company that we're dealing with is called One Nation Defense. They used to be Allegiance holsters. They had to kind of rebrand just because of some BS, but really high-end quality Kydex holsters from concealed carry to operational type stuff.
Really awesome.
So
if someone wants to sign up for the April 12th, is it?
April 12th, yep. That'll be listed, and it's all on fieldcraftsurvival.com. Okay. Yep, and then when you go to the menu, you'll see the drop downs of like, you know, product or training or this or that. But they can sign up for the courses there. Like I said, San Bernardino, March 15th, 16th, I'm doing the vehicle fighting class. Okay. And then, April, we're doing the We The Prepared, April 12th down in Anthem, Arizona, which I'm really excited for that. Again, for me, I want value add. Yeah. I want to give value. And I was talking to Eddie this morning, like, you show up to a one-day range event, and it's a whole bunch of, you know, cooks, bakers, candlestick makers that come out to take this course. You know, it's like, you know, your accountants and your lawyers and this and that and your doctors. And look, nothing against them. And I want them to be prepared. I want them to be proficient shooters. I want that. I want a society. The fact of the matter is, and, you know, it's the same with him. Like, he can't be with his wife and kids all the time. You know, like, I can't be either. Like, I want prepared citizens that are capable in my neighborhood, in my area. I want that. Mm-hmm. So I don't fault those guys for coming out, but some of them come out. A one-day shooting course is an easy option to go look cool for a day. Mm-hmm. You know, and so you get those pictures, and you just get some folks out there. And I just don't get a lot out of it, because they show up, they all celebrate at the end of the day, and then they leave, and then they're gone. You don't get vulnerable with each other. You don't get to learn or know each other on a deeper level.
That communal.
And you don't get to see any progression, really. You know.
Mm-hmm. So. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. We the Prepared.
Yeah, that'll be that little one-day profile. We're doing the gunfighter program, which is super cool. The first one we ran was awesome. That's where they get all their gear, get all their kit.
Yeah.
So that was super cool. And then, you know, I do the Guns and Geese program with Greg Anderson, which is a 3-day event. That's super cool as well.
Yeah. Thank you. You brought me that gi this morning.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to
it. Yeah, dude, no worries.
On tonight.
Yeah. I'm
going to getting back after it. Then you guys are also running a podcast still, right?
Yeah. So the podcast is called the Together We Go podcast. Mm-hmm. It's my ethos, man. Together we go. Like, you're in a hard spot. Hey, we got to go through that breach, dude. Hey, roger that. Together we go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're in a hard spot in life.
I'm here too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here too, man. You know, it's like I'm the dude to the left or right of you. You know, I've been telling my guys at Fieldcraft, like, we're righting this ship. Together we go. We're either taking off or we're going down together, but I'll make sure you guys all jump in the lifeboat first, and I'll go down, I'll go down with the ship. But so the Together We Go podcast, and that's obviously on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. And then our Fieldcraft Survival channel, we do a short form podcast called The Team Room every Tuesday that gets released. That's kind of fun. That's a little bit more event based. It's more, what's going on news wise. We talk about stuff like that, where the Together Go is like this, just long form, discussion.
The Team Room's more, current events.
Yeah, current events, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
So
Together.
everyone go subscribe to those two.
Yeah, hit the subscribe and like button.
Heck yeah.
I'm getting used to saying that now too. Right? Go down below, hit the subscribe, hit the like button. So we got that going on, and I'm just super stoked to be here. And it was cool because we kind of semi got connected via the BioPro stuff.
Yeah,
prior to all that.
Yep,
so I'm glad that's working for you.
Oh, bro, I swear by it. Man.
I do too. It's been 4 years now. I swear by it.
Yeah, so. I was because I didn't even know you were connected to it until after we had met.
Chad got you set up with that,
so
right?
Chad Robichaud gave me a box. And
because I brought him a bunch of stuff, and I was like, hey, dude, like, if you know any guys I think could benefit from this,
thank God. Because I took it, and I was like, dude, this is going to be snake oil.
Dude, that's exactly what I said, literally.
But I was like,
snake oil.
I was in pain at the time. Yeah. So I was like, all right, let me, because I was doing BPC 157, like all this stuff to try and like get back online. And I was like, all right, I'll try this. And within, I think, 2.5 weeks of taking it, and I completely, like, forgot I didn't forget I was taking it. I was just doing it, and, like, whatever, we'll see what this does. And I think 2.5 weeks, I was walking down the stairs, and I'm like, man, something's different, dude. And I was like, oh, I'm not, like, in pain, and I like, feel good and, like, rested and recovered. And I, like, the cool thing about that product is it doesn't stop.
No.
It's not, like, it doesn't wear off. It doesn't, like, and there's no side effects or anything to it. Yeah, zero side effects to it. So, yeah, I mean, I swear by it. I tell dudes our age. And then the big misconception, too, is, like, women.
Right.
It's huge.
It's great
like,
for women.
Yeah, it's great for women as well. So, yeah, it's really cool because after we had met after the Tucker thing, and then I saw you on, I was like, oh, shit.
That's great.
I was like, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, because, I mean, it's just.
I'm a male model.
Yeah, but it's cool to be, like, associated with products that like, other cool dudes that are, like, legit are associated with as well.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what, it's, I've got guys that be like, this is BS. I used it for a week and I didn't feel anything. And I'm like, one, you used it for a week.
Yeah.
So, you speak to any actual, like, medical professional, like, they say, if you're going to take something new or try some new or a diet, 6 weeks. At a minimum, 6 weeks. Now, same thing. I had a similar experience to you, whereas I literally, like, I woke up one day, like, day 8. And I remember I woke up and I was like, oh, let's go. I'm ready. I'm like, wait a second. I never do that. I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm usually like.
It's like that 45 minutes. Of
I slept great. Yeah. I'm ready to go kill the day. I was like, hold on a second. And then what I didn't notice is about 6 months in, I went to a day, like a breaching thing where we were breaching for like 4 days straight. And usually, like, I'd be rocked. I'd be drunk for a week after breaching like that. And I had a little bit of, like, I could feel a little bit of tension on my brain, a little bit of TBI symptoms going. And my wife at the time was like, she goes, you haven't complained about any TBI symptoms for like 6 months. You know that, right? I was like, holy shit, you're right. Since I started taking BioPro, I had not had any TBI episodes. And I was having some bad episodes, like, weekly. And it, like, virtually, like, killed it. Virtually cured it.
Do you point that to, like, the amount of sleep or, like, the way you sleep on that, like, the recovery and all that sort of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cumulative effect.
Yeah.
But talking to Dustin about it, is they've been doing some clinical studies with it, and I mean, it's basically it's growth factors, right?
Yeah.
And growth factors heal tissue. Growth factors heal neural pathways, and there's no reason it's not doing that to your tissue and neural pathways in your brain. And so they started doing some studies on it, and so I swear by it. I don't. Again, going back to being a man of principle. I've turned companies down that wanted to pay me money or pay Fieldcraft money because I don't believe in their product, and I'm not going to be a shill.
Yeah.
I'll shill myself for good product that I believe in, and I believe in the people, good people, and that's kind of like my whole thing is like, if you're going to sponsor the podcast, if you're going to sponsor me, if you want me or Fieldcraft to represent your brand, one, I got to believe in the product. Mm-hmm. One, first off. And then two, you got to be a good person.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't care what kind of money you're going to offer me. So I don't promote BioPro because they're making me wealthy. Yeah. They don't. You know, Dustin pays me a little bit of commission here and there because they use my photos and I talk about it and whatnot. But I'm certainly not paying the bills with it. And I certainly don't, like, I talk about it because it works.
Yeah.
It works. And does it work for you? I don't know, you know? Or like the guy who's 30, 28 years old trying to take, I'm like, bro, you're 28.
You're good.
You're good. You don't need
like those 21-year-olds getting on testosterone.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Buddy. I didn't touch testosterone until I was 39 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought I was sick. I thought I had cancer. So I was like, oh, here I am. I got cancer. I'm dying like all our other buddies, you know? And it was just super, you know,
super low,
low T, massive amounts of
living. Also due to the TBIs and everything.
Dude, and living a life of just cortisol and our adrenal systems just shot and working reverse cycle, you know, going out on stuff at night and then trying to sleep during the day. But then you're also training, you're also working out, and you just, you know.
Well, you're pushing your body to extremes.
Massive.
It only can take so much until it starts backfiring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I super believe in the BioPro. Obviously, it's not an end all be. I don't think it's not the one cure all, right?
No.
Oh, it's the same thing with testosterone. Like I tell guys all the time, oh, well, you're on steroids, bro. I was like, look, I will make a deal with you. I'll give you 1 year to take my exact regimen. I'll tell you exactly what I take, and I'll give you 1 year. And if at the end of that 1 year you look like me and can do what I can do, I'll pay for your year of testosterone, bro. Because it's everything. It's that complete combatant. It's like, you know, your diet, your sleep, your physical output and what you're doing for a workout, and like your supplements, because then I take a bunch of vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. And it's, you know, it's like there's this whole encompassing thing. Testosterone is not the fountain of youth. BioPro is not the fountain of youth. Carnivore diet's not the fountain of youth. You know, it's like
it's the accumulative of all of it.
It's the cumulative of all of it, man. You gotta do all of it. So you gotta jack of all trades, master of none. You know.
Yep.
So there's a third part to that saying that someone recently told me, and I can't remember it, but it's basically like jack of all trades, master of none. But it was like better than the masses. It was like something, I don't know.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, there's a third. I'll have to look it up. We need like a Jamie on the computer or something.
That's our next evolution.
I started using my media guys. I've now got them on camera and audio on a computer, so that we change that about the podcast. So
it is, dude. It is beneficial. I think because I've noticed a lot of people start doing it now, and I think, you know, most people are like, oh, well, Rogan already does that, but it's like.
But it works.
It's beneficial because it is cool to have somebody there like, hey, check that real quick.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like Andy's got Michael, right?
Yeah.
And
we got Isaiah.
There you go. Yeah. Isaiah, hey, look that up for me real quick, bro. You know, it's like, it's hey, plagiarism is the greatest form of flattery, right? So if it's working for them, you know,
there's a reason they're doing it.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, brother.
Dude, thank you guys.
Great combo,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And definitely for the listeners out there, go check out Fieldcraft. And then we'll put the links below for Fieldcraft and then for the podcast and everything. Really stoked for you, man. Like I'm stoked that you're taking it over and you're still pushing in a direction, trying to grow it and sort of revamp it and make it your own, which is, I think, you know, that's needed when you take over a business. And, dude, I hope nothing but success for you.
I appreciate it. And that's what it comes down to. I'm not Mike Glover. We're different people, not good or bad, but I can't try to run Fieldcraft pretending to be him.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, so is it a little different? Yeah. Is the podcast a little different? Yeah. I'm a different man, you know, so.
Yeah, and that's going to, you know, those challenges are going to come. I mean, I know you've already been through them, and that's just part of, you know, transitioning. Yeah. It's like, we're transitioning leadership, dude. Yeah. And you see it in, you know, when I was in the teams, when the new leader takes over, it's like, oh, well, this guy sucks because we're used to doing it this way. And it's like, dude, okay, just give the guy time. Yeah. And, you know, I know, dude, with your attitude and the way you do things and just everything that you've explained on this podcast, I know that it's going to be successful.
I appreciate it. Yeah. No, thank you guys. This was awesome. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Out.